a digitally enabled organization, is something is happening also at a social level, at a society's level. And what's happening at the society level is that digital capability builds a divide. It will create a set of people, human beings, who will be plugged into the world of digitally enabled environment, and it will have a set of people who would not, for whatever reasons, find themselves not being plugged into the world of digital enablement. It has massive long-term implications. And when you look at this, what could be these long-term implications? So, imagine a scenario as follows. Today, if you take all of the knowledge of physics, chemistry, math, biology, anthropology, which includes languages, culture, art, etc. of human beings, it can be compressed into approximately, give or take, about 10 terabytes on a chip. Imagine a baby is born, chip is connected, it fires up the requisite neurons, and you speak Japanese, the baby answers in Japanese. You speak Urdu, the baby answers in Gujarati. You speak Punjabi, the baby answers in Punjabi. You speak Urdu, the baby answers in Urdu. You say, like what I said in the first example, small presentation on Einstein's theory of relativity, boom. So, what would you say to someone in 20, argument's sake, say, at any reasonable level of progress, if not in my generation, my children's generation, it will happen. Now, what would you say? What would a resume look like? What would an organization look like? What would be the meaning of IMCA gold medalist? What would the meaning of I'm PhD? .01 day old, no more, with no more. And you might think, maybe this is crazy. I was before my grandmother passed away, I came back, I was in US, she was very well, my mom rang me, he said, look, your grandma's not well, and meet her. So I came back and just talked, and she said something very interesting to me. She said, you don't learn in life. So I said, what do you mean? My so she said, when I was born, so my grandmother was alive, and my grandmother would, if somebody told her that I'm speaking to my grandchild who's in New York, she would have been committed to a mental asylum. People said, are you crazy? In 3 generations. She said, if today I say that I can't speak to Robbie, who's in New York, today, there's no way I can speak to him people will say, the chemistry, because you said BBG, Punjabi BBG se thya gaya, BBG pagal ho gaye. You know? So in a span, her grandmother was alive in 1826. Between 1826 to 2006, in a span of 180 years, the definition of being mad altered by 180 degrees. And this is the transition and challenge we are going through. This is one example in terms of access and communication. And there will be significant changes of that magnitude, where what you imagine today, and I will close with this thought, I'll take an extra time. There will be, I don't know when, but there will be a time when somebody look back on us, our generation, and say the following, that those people were the most brutal, inhuman, unethical people. The question will say, people will say, why this labor for them? And they will say, they used to cremate or bury people who are alive. The definition of death itself will change. And this is the scale of opportunity, the scale of change, that the integration of digital and AI services mean for humanity, let alone businesses. And so it is imperative for us to be humble enough, matured enough to learn the magnitude of impacts that are in front of us, both from business and from human perspective. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ravi. It was phenomenal, and I request you to be on the stage for 30 more seconds if you can. I think the kind of thought process which you shared with all these examples, we all can relate with it, and at least I could see that we all are introspecting about how the next 100 years will look like, and we may be really thinking about being ourselves into the mental asylum he was talking about. So we should start thinking about. One more round of applause for Ravi, please. Thank you. We have a small memento to give it to you, Ravi, to say thank you. Can we have the memento? With this, I will request the next session, I think, which is going to be an important one for us, which is going to set the context and the theme of the evening today. The whole context of unlocking or unlock value horizons, as we call it, right? So I'll request Ravi Ramakrishnan, who is the founder for the Shared Services Forum. He's also the founder and executive chairman for the R Value Group, and he's the one who does not need introductions beyond. I think many of us will know him. He's a doyen for this industry, the business services, business transformation. Starting his career more than 4 decades ago with Levers, Murugappa Group, Eicher Motors, early 90s when he was the CFO turning around the Royal Enfield, which is the Harley Davidson of India. I think then moving on to American Express in mid-90s as a global business leader, and really transforming the world of business services, where the first ever offshoring really happened in mid-90s. People never imagined that India can deliver services at that point of time, and today we can see how many global organizations are here where we are delivering services from India. More than 120 countries we service from here, good about 70 odd languages we service from here, and we are as an industry is the fourth largest contributor to the GDP of India. So I think a round of applause for Ravi to be part of that pioneering journey, and I request Ravi to take us through the unlock value horizons.
Thank you so much. Very good evening to each one of you. I think what a session it was with Robbie. I think, what Rakesh said was absolutely the right context after Robbie finished. I think the two words which he said, I can say three words, but I just want to focus on those two words which Robbie said, is what describes today. And the reason why I'm saying two words, but I'll say the 3-4 words, I think, what it will look like. It will look like 5 words, but I think the 2 words I will choose is look like. The reason why I'm emphasizing those 2 words is that we should not miss out. You can change anything in the front, but don't miss out those 2 words. How will it look like? What will it look like? That's a powerful word. Horizon is all about how will it look like. I can really relate to it looking at, horizon by design is how far you can see, right? Of course, we keep talking about how the earth and sky kind of meet, but it's a kind of a reference point. But what it actually means is that how far you can see, and how far you can see depends on how much you really think about those 2 words. How will it look like? And that's what has changed or transformed every industry in this country, every pioneering leader in this country. So I'm really happy that Robbie inaugurated this with his special address and gave those 2 words with all the powerful examples. Okay. So coming to the context, I think Rakesh and I have been together for the last 18 years now, and the interesting aspect of it is, people used to say my number of years of experience and his age was same when we came together. I had 25 years of experience and Rakesh was just 25 years of age. And that's the journey which he has looked at over the last 18 years. And that's a huge journey. I'm so proud that he co-founded the Shared Services Forum to be today SSF Global. And there's so many leaders whom we are connecting with to make a difference. And I personally believe, and I was sharing with some of the people when I met before, that I learn by interaction. And the more I can interact, more I can connect with, I really feel it's so enlightened at the end of the interaction. So coming to the powerful focus on what we are saying is, we are talking about unlocking value horizons, and it is a very exploratory focus. It's something which we have discovered over experiential learning. I'm sure many of you would have many things to add. This is not to say this is a defined description. This is a description, no doubt. But I really want each one of you to think, like, what will it look like for you? How will it look like for you, the digital world in the future, is what I think is very important. So if I start looking at some of the areas which we can actually unfold this horizon is, I'm really going to take 4 key pointers, so that I can just focus on it and then kind of get to the conversation in this. First, why value horizon? And I can draw each one of this with some connection with what Robbie said, but I'm sure you can yourself make the connection. Why value horizon? Second, What's changing the horizon? You know. The third, what are enterprise functions? Actually, I would even refine it to say what connotes enterprise functions. I'm not going to define, as I was telling you, I'm going to kind of give you a description of something which is very important in today's context. What connotes enterprise function? The last but not the least, how to unlock value horizon. These are the four topics I'll quickly touch upon, and then we can actually have a greater deliberation. So the first one first, whenever we talk about horizons and business, there is a one interesting model which is there, which is McKinsey Horizon model, which has been there, which actually was done in 2000, year 2000. The turn of the 21st century, but it was still very valuable. As you know, the turn of the 20th century and today, we are, I would say, not just 23 years from the century, but we are many centuries in this 23 years. The world has changed many, many times, exponentially, So 2000, when we really looked at, this model was very powerful. And it had, the most important thing for us to focus is, we all talk about business from a context of core business. But core business is only one of the horizons here. Right? That's the horizon number one. But there are two more horizons which are important for us to remember. Right? Which is the emerging one and the new businesses that we look at. So horizon 2, horizon 3. So, in simple terms, I would say it is now, next, new. These are three horizons. Okay? Because it's always important for us to remember, now is core, next is what is emerging, and new is beyond what we are doing today and even emerging. The interesting part was, this particular model has been deliberated in the last 23 years by many, many universities, and they have actually challenged this model. That's what I wanted to say. But a very, very simple difference. Stanford has worked on it. Startup leaders have worked on it. Steve Blank is one of the most powerful startup leaders in the industry. The person who defined what is product market fit for industry. Okay. So Harvard has defined this model. There's only one important change I've made, and that will tell you why I'm saying we have walked centuries in this. Time, you see there is an axis of value and time, right? But the time x-axis has been substituted by speed of deployment. The speed of deployment is what we are talking today. We are not talking any longer of time. In a manner of speaking, it is no longer horizon 1, horizon 2, horizon 3 is sequential. You can work on horizon 3 when you are working on horizon 1. If you have ability to think, what's the question? How will it look like? Then you can see horizon 3 today and see this is the way the world is changing and see how we can look at it. So the world is changing, and when you're looking at this, therefore the focus is value and the horizon. It's not time. So the focus is value horizon and not necessarily the time. Now beyond this, there is a reference, therefore it moves from innovation to disruption. I think we know that digital actually caused more disruption than any other technology in the world, any other thing which happened, even COVID. We all survived because of digital technology. Right? On the one side, we were completely shattered with the kind of challenges. I've heard of BCP, business continuity plans. Okay, and I never thought the world will shut down. I never thought this country will shut down. We have got multiple options and so on and so forth. One never thought world will shut down. But that's what happened. And so today we are really looking at a completely different ballgame, but digital has completely looked at what it is. So it's innovation to disruption to the extent one of the things we focused in Shared Services Forum is I'm sure all of you are familiar with something called BAU, business as usual. So we actually coined a term in 2019 called DAU, disruption as usual. There is no longer business as usual as continuing today. Today we are disruption as usual. And that's why we are talking of value horizons, which is very different. So when we are talking of disruption, so what is the focus? The focus is not business growth. The focus is not business growth. Focus is enterprise value. Very simple example one can look at. Companies can grow their revenues by 20, 30 times, but enterprise value may not grow. I'm sure I can't, we're just talking again. This community understands value much better than anyone else in this India at least. They're born, brought up with value in mind. Right? So the point I'm saying is, and I can give you one simple example. I don't know how many of you can, it's a simple mathematics, an example to tell you. And I'm going to take an example of revenue and let's say top line and bottom line for easy example. Suppose you take one revenue and one profit, okay? If one revenue is increasing by 1% every day, okay? If 1 rupee or $1 revenue is increasing 1% every day for 365 days, okay, that's one part of it. And the profit is $1 is declining by 1% every day for 365 days. Can anyone imagine what would be the numbers would be? Just make a guess. I don't want you to put a calculator in your thing. $1 multiplied 1% every day for 365 days and $1 profit reducing by 1% every day for 365 days. I can tell you the number, you can check it if it's interesting. The $1 of revenue will become $37 at the end of 365 days. And the $1 profit will become 1 cent. See the kind of variation. The reason why I'm highlighting this is, it's not about profit or loss, it's about enterprise value. And I think it's important for us to remember that. So as we build on this value horizon, let's try and move on to look at what's changing the horizon. I think it's obvious. Surely digital is changing the horizon, But before that, I just want to bring a context to what we are saying, because one of the things, as Rakesh said, we are practitioners. We're not going to say one-liner and say digital is going to change the world. That always, I think you don't need a forum for this to tell us, right? That's obvious. What we want to tell you is what, therefore, we need to do and how is the daily going to go through this. That's what the practitioner's world is all about. So when we had in the world belonging prior to digital, we had lots of functions. And typically these functions in the businesses can be divided into two parts. A core business functions and support functions. Core business functions would be, can anyone say what are the core business functions? Just make it, I'm sure it's quite obvious. What's a core business function can be? Sales? Production. Production, marketing, production, sales. If somebody wants to look at beyond this, you can say R&D. Right? Because you have to look at the R&D. The pharma companies might be here, so they can think of R&D. Oil companies also look at the R&D. That's core business functions. Support functions are everything else. Right? You talk of finance, HR, procurement, even IT. Today of course IT is standing on its own because digital world is there, but still there are a lot of companies where IT is still support. Marketing, you talk of customer experience management, that's also a support function. It's no longer becoming it. So that's the world we are in today. Or we were before the digital world stepped up. But what has happened today? Cut over to the digital world, the world has moved from function to enterprise. I actually used to say Adani talks about Adani enterprises. I'm just taking a reference to the context, that's all. So the point I'm saying is, in enterprise there is nothing called core function or support function. All functions have to be enterprise functions. Chapter closed. There's no choice. Actually, I used to say there's Hobson's choice. Hobson's choice is no choice. Right? So today we have. So when the digital, this is happening because of the word digital. The so-called business services and offshoring that we did in American Express 25 years back, it happened because of IT. Without IT, we survived during COVID because of IT. Right? So with digital coming into the world, there is no function which can say I am a support function. You have to think business all the time, every time. It's not that I'm going to support somebody. You will support somebody, but at the end game, what needs to be done. So when the digital is changing the horizon, each of the support functions have to push their limits. That's where the horizon comes in. If horizon 1, 2, 3, I leave it to you. Is it what you want to push today, you want to push as the next one, or is it the one which is going to be tomorrow? So make sure that support functions do not remain support functions, they will and have to become enterprise functions. So that's what is changing is the digital world. Because of that, there is no support function, everything is becoming the enterprise function. Having said that, I was sharing with you what connotes enterprise function. Let's go to the next level of context, because again, I personally believe leaving a conceptual thought is not good enough. Can we leave something which is actionable, right? So, in the way we have evolved in the last 20, 25 years in this industry, our experiential learning has been this, and I'm sure many people here who have had enough experience can improve upon it, can contribute to it. Transforming support functions to technology integrated enterprise functions. That's the golden rule today. Enterprise functions have to be technology integrated. Rakesh and Sanjay will talk about it a little later. But there are 5 key areas which have to be coexisting at the same time to call it as an enterprise function. 5. And they have to be combined. That's why I want to say coexisting. What are the 5? 1. Every support function, now I'm adding the word digital support function, so that we are able to remember it's no longer the word support function. It has to focus on business. There's no other choice. Right? Second, it has to be end-to-end. It's not about what I do in my shared services, what I do in my finance function, what I do in my procurement function. Functions are silos. Business processes are not meant to be silos. They cut across, procure to pay. Unfortunately, sometimes when we talk of P2P, that also becomes another silo. I don't want that to be happening. We have to break that jinx of why we created these shared services, and we again get back to the silo. Then we're going back in our complete, it's a retro rather than not a forward working thing. So end to end, which is upstream, downstream, front office, mid office. Robbie talked about front office, mid office, back office, all have to be one office. Technology driven, there's no choice. That's the center of the whole thing. This is very important. This is one area which we are still struggling with, as not just in India, globally. Harnessing the data. I don't think we have done enough on data. If I talk about people who are using SAP, this so-called master data management is a mystery. I sometimes even call it astrology. Anybody can make anything, depending on what moves where, it depends on what happens. So I think it is important for us to remember, harnessing data is one of the most critical things, and we have not done enough on it, neither globally or in India. There's enough to do in this world. And last but not the least, non-linear. Because when digital comes in, it has to become non-linear. You know what I mean by non-linear is it's not just about human intelligence to work together. It's human intelligence and digital intelligence to coexist and work together, when it happens, you have a multiplier effect. That's the power of the whole thing. So technology integrated enterprise functions, or how do we connote enterprise functions? These are the 5 elements which have to coexist. So having come to the context of digitally powered, I just thought this is a context. I don't want to spend too much time because already I'm almost in the running out of the time, but I just want to give 3 important things because a digitally powered organization must be conscious of. First one is digital strategy. It is across the organization and it has to look at the strategic possibilities from the transformation across business units, functions. It has got new insights, new technologies, new products, new markets, whatever you call it. Second one is tech aligned to strategy. This is another important thing. A lot of people say that, oh, I become digital by implementing RPA. Very RPA, let me not take away the power of RPA, but that is not just digital. That is one part of the digital. It's important that, it may be a pocket, but quite often, RPA is not sufficient to say I'm a digital journey. Right? Relevant technology, actually we use the term fit for purpose. Fit for purpose. Each company, and that's actually one of the most important things when we look at technology-driven organization, we would look at, I was sharing again, we have a term called BIC to BIC. Many of the Adani people might have heard me talk about it. It's called best in class to best in context. So best in class to best in context. What is in our context is what is relevant. And the context therefore fit for purpose. Technology is very important. And last but not least, digital change capability. That's where the people, the whole leadership, ecosystem, the whole thing happens there. It is not just about just the people. It's not just the people in the front line. It is actually leadership included. Quite often, actually, there are a lot of researchers which says, if the leaders have a better buy-in, digital change is faster. So it's not just about people at the next level, it's people who are sitting here equally important. So it's organization's ability to adapt and adopt both. The most important thing I wanted to mention to you, and that's one of the, actually I would say as a caution for us, if support functions do not become enterprise functions, the challenge is it's not about enterprise value going up alone. If we don't do this, our enterprise value will come down. Please be cautious. If we can't add value to the company, let's not take away the value from the company. That's a crime which we can commit. Okay? Nobody will penalize us under IPC, but still, it's something which if I can't contribute, then we stay neutral, right? But support functions, if we don't become enterprise functions, we would take away enterprise value, and that's not something which we can have any choice. The last section to complete, which is unlocking value horizons. So, I'm sharing 5 key elements of unlocking to make sure that we are able to kickstart this journey of unlocking value horizons towards the future of digitally powered enterprise functions. First one, enterprise value mindset. And I always share this, mindset is the starting point. What will it look like is a mindset issue. It is not about numbers or Excel sheets or digital or technology. What it will look like in someone else's ability to see that horizon. And that horizon has to be seen from enterprise value point of view. It is not just from the revenue growth. Of course, revenue growth is one important dimension. But what would make my enterprise value go up is where I need to also think about. It's not just about revenue. I can have 100 crores of revenue or I can have 100,000 crores of revenue. But how does it actually impact my enterprise value? That's what is important. Like I know how many of you know that WhatsApp was a digital company in 2000, whatever, 7-8 years back. There were 19 people. I don't know how many of you remember it was sold For how many billions of dollars? 19 billions of dollars was sold WhatsApp. That's the value someone was willing to pay. I'm not even talking about, sometimes enterprise value is what is in the market. Stock market, that's still not in my mind enterprise value. Will somebody be willing to pay is the enterprise value for me? Okay. So I think that is market capitalization. That is not what market value is all about. So I'm just sharing with you that enterprise value mindset is the first starting point. Second, holistic strategy. Third, disruption by collaboration. I think one of the important things I feel, and I think I can surely say that, many of the companies in India started doing it, that, everything you cannot disrupt on your own. While I say DAU, in the DAU you need to have an ecosystem. Actually, many companies, as you know, have cultivated startups to work with the large corporations. You know that the last 15, 20 years, startups work with large companies. Why? Because it gives them a capability to disrupt for future. They cannot disrupt because their mind is set on this is the way the business runs. But these people will question every single thing. So disrupt by collaboration. I think it's very important. There are many collaborators who continuously disrupt a lot of things. You need to find right collaborators to work together. Data readiness, I said harness data, this is absolutely crucial. And last but not the least, value delivery driven. Just to make sure that, while I'm not going to touch every detail, I'm sharing one last slide which gives you some sub-components of this fight so that you again don't leave it at the conceptual level. So this tells you what enterprise value mindset would mean. Prioritize transformation of support functions. It's absolutely crucial. They're no longer support, they are all enterprise functions. They are technology integrated enterprise functions. Speed to action, not time. Speed to action with tech integration is absolutely critical. These two are enterprise value mindset. You can add more to this, please feel free. Holistic strategy, single to multiple functions. It's one of the most challenging ones, I would say India is going through, but some of the global organizations are going through. When we talk about, they'll say finance, they will talk about HR, they will take procurement. In finance, they will say accounts payable, because that is easy for us to handle. I actually feel the other way. I feel accounts payable is where the money is going out. Accounts receivable money is coming in. What's your problem? But it's a way to see it. I see it differently, somebody else would see it differently. But let's not look at piecemeal, not of one function. It has to be multiple functions across the organization. And consolidation is not sufficient. I've centralized and consolidated, I've done that. They're all starting points. They are not going to be our value points. Let's not confuse between starting points and value points. End to end, they should not be incremental. They have to have a coherent strategy. That's absolutely crucial. Disruption by collaboration. In-house to dedicated capability. Startup is a dedicated capability. I can work with them. Some people invest in the startup. They say, why don't they make it grow? CapEx to OpEx. Support functions don't get technology. Because my core business will get technology. Right? But then you have collaborators who can do, I'll get you to do OpEx. Why did you do this? People capacity into capability. I truly believe that organizations grow, but it's important we convert capacity to capability. Not the same thing being done many times over, but how do we learn new things? And that's where the whole focus is on talent mix and reskilling. It's not about only what I know today, what my experience today. Data readiness for analytics and insights. It's very important. Agile, actionable data, and I don't know how many of you can say SSOT is single source of truth. This is something you're all familiar with, but I don't know how many of us actually can say that we actually have it. We don't have it. Data focus, external and internal, financial and non-financial. I think it's not that our Excel sheets will look at only numbers. That's not good enough. That will not tell you the story. That will not tell you how we'll look like. Value delivery is beyond cost reduction to customer experience. Actually, one of the things people talk about, if digital will it give you return on investment? I can guarantee you, if you look at only financial, it will not give you return on investment. But will your enterprise value go up? Yes. Because when the customer experience goes up, the enterprise value goes up by studies have proven 200%. So you get your return by enterprise value going up, not by return on investment. I think there's a difference between value and return on investment. I think many chartered accountants are there in this room, but we need to remember this completely different. Act on value drivers for comprehensive value delivery. So with those few words, let me say, let's all together walk on this journey and discover this new path and see how we would like to see ourselves, how it will look like. Thank you so much.
I now request Anand Maheshwari to come.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To this great city of Ahmedabad, which also is called Karnavati, or officially known as Ahmedabad, which has a unique distinction of probably the only World Heritage City recognized by UNESCO from India. Probably some of my friends in Ahmedabad are also looking at me with surprised looks. But that's what this city achieved just about 5 years ago, if I recall it correctly. So I'm really delighted to be amongst you. People talked about what this city should be doing for this industry. They have started doing it in a great way, and we are in that venue which is given the entrepreneurship, Indian entrepreneurship, as an absolutely new pedestal across the globe. So 3 cheers for all of us and a round of applause for everybody sitting in this room. So, after listening to stalwarts like Robbie Singh and Ravi Ramakrishnan, I am given this task of taking all of us to a technical session number 1. But I can tell you the combined intellectual power in this room is going to make it worth everybody's time and commitment here. So, without further ado, I will do the honors of first introducing and then inviting 2 very seasoned young professionals. And by the way, there is some hidden talent amongst us, which I will save for the later. So first and foremost, you have heard his name. You know, almost all of you know him very well. And he is given so much power behind organizing this event today, as Rakesh was also mentioning. Young and dynamic Sudesh Jain. Sudesh heads Finance Transformation and Group SSC at Adani, serving more than 500 plus legal entities. Oh man, 3 years ago it was 100 plus. Oh my God. Okay. Across 25 plus diverse business verticals, comprising energy generation and transmission, renewable energy, solar cell manufacturing, cement, airports, ports and logistics, gas distribution and real estate, amongst others. He is a qualified chartered accountant with over 20 years of experience working across multiple industries. And he is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and a certified advanced RPA professional. I'm not surprised. And he is also an avid traveler, reader, and loves music. So let's welcome Sudesh Jain. And Now, with much delight, I would like to introduce Nitin Jain, Chief Executive Officer, Welspun Transformation Services. Wonderful. Nitin is currently the CEO of Welspun Transformation Services Limited. He is an experienced professional, again with 20 plus years of experience in accounts management, financial planning, financial management, ERP implementation, audit, taxation, and many other associated things. In the interest of time, I would jump further to say he completed his bachelor's degree in commerce from Meerut in 1999, and then did his CA and started his career in Delhi NCR. He spent 12 years in CNH Industrial, holding various roles such as commercial controller, payable controller, share services controller. That's when we first met. Yeah. Okay. And in 2019, he joined Welspun Group as the head of shared services and quickly rose to become the CEO of that separate legal entity called Welspun Transformation Services Limited. So, Nitin, most welcome. It is a pleasure to be flanked by such accomplished professionals. So, the way we thought, the title of our session is about success stories. Every day in and day out, we do certain things. We take certain initiatives. In the entire journey of what we call digitally powered enterprise services. And each one of us would certainly have something to share about that. But I have the pleasure of getting to hear, along with all of you, how they have used digital empowerment and capabilities to make significant impact on the business. And today we are talking of value horizons. So how those impact ultimately would have converted into value for their respective enterprises and multiple stakeholders through that. So the way we thought we will talk about it is that they will take, just to take away the monotony of just standing and talking about a story, they will take the help of a couple of slides to make sure that this resonates with the audience better. And during the session, we will continue with some more dialogue. And I would encourage everybody present here not to take maximum advantage of the opportunity and do ask their questions of clarifications or also share relevant perspectives from your side. So with that format in mind, can I again turn to Sudesh first. So Sudesh, having been personally aware of many of your feathers in your cap kind of thing in this journey, but it will be wonderful, useful that if you start on your side and share with us some of the powerful success stories by appropriate intervention of digital capabilities and technology that you have been able to bring about in Apex and through Apex to the Adani as an enterprise.
Yeah. So I don't know how powerful these stories are, but we are in the business of power. I hope that it will be powerful today. Lot of strategic discussion, big talks happened. Ravi sir, Robbie, on the digital transformation. Now let's get grounded and see how it actually means for us. Yeah. Yeah. So when we say digitally powered enterprise function, first let's see what is digitally powered enterprise. Yeah. So there's a Enoch Center a couple of kilometers away from this venue where we are sitting right now. This center is kind of monitoring and managing 10% of India's energy requirement. 155 million Indians are getting energy from Adani, which is controlled out of this center, entirely digitally powered. And this is not the enterprise function. I just wanted to kind of talk about this before we get into what Enoch means for us, for MX, right? So going to the next slide, this is my Enoch, the operating center of MX. So we have also kind of tried to replicate how do we use technology to overall deliver value for Adani Group, right? So this is a tech lab, which is our in-house operating center out of MX. This lab has delivered 200 plus bots, and as Ravi sir mentioned, RPA is not the only digital transformation. This is part of that. But yeah, we started with bots, 200 plus bots delivered in last 3 years' time. 17 dashboards are developed out of this lab, and 200 KPIs are being monitored on a daily basis out of this particular center, which is my operating center. And I have in-house capability of developing programs using Python and other languages as well. Yeah. So coming back to the success stories, what this lab has delivered for us. I'll take a couple of examples, couple of case studies to discuss that further. So this is one of the value which we have delivered so far. And when we say success, success is not like a destination, it's a milestone. So what we say here is that we have achieved something right now, but end of the day, the journey continues, right? So what we have done so far is that we have used RPA, Python, and Vim customization to kind of make sure that 20 lakhs plus invoices which we are getting from 45,000 plus vendors across 200 plus sites, and all of them are removed, that all of those invoices are going through a particular criteria. There is no duplicate, there is no excess payment happens, right? So for that, what we did is we developed 13 unique combinations using RPA plus Python. RPA helps us to kind of extract data and compare data, but Python does some cleanup of data before it goes through the validation cycle, right? So this particular development which we have done has, in last couple of years, has delivered 455 million INR rupees impact to the group, right? If we would not have developed this, we would have resulted into excess payment to the tune of 455 million. And in terms of transaction, it is 500 plus transactions. And as I mentioned, it is from 45,000 plus vendors across 200 plus sites, and all of these are remote sites. So it becomes very important for us centrally that we keep a close eye on all the invoices which are coming to us. But as I said, this is not a destination, this is just a journey. What we are now doing, we are going to take this to a next level, and then it will be RPA plus. Yeah? So the RPA is already done, Python is already done. Now we have initiated 2 projects to kind of take this journey to a different level. One, with the help of EY, we are going to, or we have started actually, we are going to develop AI ML driven analytics on top of this data. So today what happens is, when all of these codes runs on a daily basis, it gives me 300, 400 transactions as output, and out of which 99.9% would be false positive. So analyzing all of these transactions and identifying the right case is also a challenge. What this will do is, this will kind of clean up the data, this will see the patterns, this will see the signals, and accordingly reduce the false positive universe for us. So that is one activity, one project which we are going to do, and this will be finished in next 3 months' time. It is already half done. Second, which is very, very important for us, is that there's a company called CBR. They are an AI lab company. With their partnership, what we are doing is, we are doing an image analytics project. So as I mentioned, we get around 20 lakhs invoices every year. So if I talk about 2 years data, it's like 40 lakhs invoices. What this development is going to do is this: every invoice when I receive, in a fraction of second, this will check this invoice with 2 years data, which is like 40 lakhs invoices in background, and tell me the similarity score or the duplication score, right? And lots of technologies are going to be used here. You can see that computer vision technique, which is one of the aspect of this. Second is document similarity technology, and third is OCR. So combination of these 3 technology, we are going to kind of take this fraud and duplicate checking mechanism to a different level. Yeah. So this is one value which we have delivered so far, and we are planning to deliver in next 3 to 4 months time. Second is tax transformation. I keep on talking about this function in all the forums. I have presented this before in the shared services forum as well, but this is very close to me. Why? Because if you see, our complexity, as you also mentioned, 500 plus legal entity, and when it comes to GST, it is like 1300 GST registration. This is bigger than a practice of any Big Four audit firm. I have visited multiple offices of Big Four. No single location can handle this kind of volume which we are handling. How do we with the limited people, how do we ensure that each and every compliance is happening on time with 100% controllership and accuracy? Because this is the end of the day exchequer's contribution, right? So using multiple technologies, we have done lots of transformation around this area. I will not talk about these things in details because this is something which is self-explanatory. But just to touch one or two items out of this, I have to talk about input tax credit reconciliation, which is the most tedious process in any of the GST practice. It used to take 15 days time previously. Now with the help of multiple technology, integration, API, this, that, we have reduced the overall turnaround time from 15 days to 4 hours. So, yeah. So today what happens is, on 21st of every month, once the GST and 3B return is filed, we just run these, this combination of technologies, and 22nd by afternoon, we get the final reconciliation of all 1200 plus GST registrations across the group. And the value of this is around $2 billion when it comes to impact, yeah. And 99.9% GST reconciliation is happening through this technology. So this is also one of the, I feel, impact which is given to the group, and hence I always talk about this. Now, little bit talk about future. This is the last slide. So, because the topic is future of digitally powered enterprise functions, and hence I wanted to talk about a little bit of future as well. So, 3 projects we have initiated recently, very, very initial stage. One is cognitive invoice processing, AP, as you mentioned, Ravi sir, that this is something which is very important because this is payment going out, yeah. So in last 15 years of shared services forum, other forums, we always talk and see AP transformation stories through workflow, through API, through bot, this, that. But end of the day, the AP function is still AP function. People of AP function are still there in all the companies. I have visited all the shared service forum. You ask the number, they will say 100,000, 2,000. Whatever transformation they do, they will have people, right? So how do we ensure that actually it is automated, end-to-end automated? What we are doing is with IBM, we are doing a cognitive invoice processing project, in which the element which is still manual after implementing all RPA, all workflow, all automation, which is a decision making of the person who is the agent, finally, whether I need to adjust or not. The advance is but whether I need to adjust or not. The TDS code is coming, but should I actually use this or that? That particular function we are going to automate through this cognitive invoice processing, and we saw a small POC with them as well. So there is an art of possibility. We will explore this in next 2-3 months time, and then we'll use it as a full-fledged technology, implement this. Second, which is very near to me, is the use case around generative AI. So they have a technology called IBM's Watson.ai. It is similar to ChatGPT, but this is IBM's proprietary tool for the enterprises. So what we saw there is that this has the capability to benchmark your financials with the industry standard or with the accounting standard. Ind AS, for India it is Ind AS plus clause 49 of listing agreement plus lots of other requirements. So for a company like us, I have to generate 500 financial statements every month by 5th. And it is across 11 listed entities. So every quarter, limited review happens. Every year, full-fledged audit happens. So in that limited period of 25 days, if I have to generate 500 financial statement, there is always possibility of something or other is missing. In terms of ensuring that India's compliances, disclosure notes, and everything is perfect. For that particular thing, there is a solution which is available. We have initiated a POC around that as well. So if this happens, I will take out the role of financial controllers and auditors when it comes to review. They might be doing lots of other things. I'm not saying they will lose a job, but I'm saying for this particular activity, I don't need a FC, I don't need an auditor. There's no review required because this is reviewed by generative AI, which is far more sophisticated than any user or any human. And third is again with E and Y, we are doing a corporate tax automation. This is again like financial statement only. We got limited time, and this is also I keep mentioning this is much larger than any practicing big four firm. I have to produce 700 ITR 415 tax audit reports in next 2 months time, and every balance sheet is sized like 10 billion, 5 billion, 8 billion. How do I deliver that in time? For that we are kind of using multiple technology, automating this. That once my financial statement is signed on an annual basis, at a click of button, I should be getting at least 90% tax audit report generated out of system. 10% will still remain as a matter of decision making. So these are the three very important projects which we are going to kind of deliver from the future perspective. But yeah, so these are the things which I wanted to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Such a delight to see a fellow chartered accountant talking so eloquently or so effortlessly in the same breath about RPA, Python, and accounts, audit, standards, and everything. So wonderful. Great to learn from that, and I'm sure Nitin is not going to disappoint us. He also represents a marquee logo, global leader in its product lines, Welspun. And although they have come into the field of shared services relatively recently, but we have heard a lot of good things about you, so Nitin. First, over to you, and then I have noted down a few questions for you at least, and then we'll go ahead from there. So, over to you.
So, good evening all. This is Nitin Jain, and first of all, thank you SSF team for inviting me. It's our privilege to be here along with my team. And I used to go to in Mumbai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru to have such session. It's really wonderful that we are having this session in Ahmedabad, and I'm assuming that in the coming future, especially post lots of shared services are moving into the Ahmedabad. Mike. And I'm assuming that in the coming future there will be multiple such sessions in Ahmedabad. So, you want this one? That's fine. So, regarding Welspun, although it's a known name, but still I have added a few slides for Welspun. Welspun is very known brand into the home textile, pipe and steel vertical, infra vertical, and we have a global presence. This is last year number, which is we generated the revenue of $2.7 billion, and this year we are going to achieve $3.5 billion because recently we took Syntex, and there's a good growth plan in the home textile in the pipe business. We have 26,000 employees overall across the globe. In US, UK, we have plants in Telangana, Dahej, Mandya, Bhopal, Vapi, and Jar. We have the fixed assets based of US dollar $1.1 billion, and of course we have listed companies like Welspun India, Corp, Enterprise, and we have 1 lakh plus shareholders. Okay. So this is. It's very known, like we are #1 brand in the world for home textile. So we are having close to 45% of market share. In US, every 4th towel is the Welspun towel. Every 7th bed sheet is the Welspun bed sheet. We are #2 in the pipe and the steel vertical, and of course. Because our 98-99% revenue is coming through the exports, so that is the reason we are not very known name in India, but now we have started our focus, which is Har Ghar Se Har Dil Tak Welspun, and then now we are going to have the focus on the Indian customer too. we have the Welspun Enterprise, which is the infra vertical, Delhi Meerut Highway, if you heard that. There are multiple projects we are running through this infra vertical, and then recently we opened this logistic vertical, which is the Welspun warehousing. Recently we took the Syntex, so we are opening this plastic vertical also under the Welspun. Okay. When it comes to the WTSL GCC, we are quite young. We started our journey somewhere in 2019, and it was just the pilot. Like any other shared services center, probably somewhere in 2020, we were thinking whether we took a right decision by opening this shared services center, or we will move into the old version where the finance was managing by the finance and so on, because there were huge multiple escalations, especially in the complex structure like what we have, and also the change management was always tough. But the one thing which helped us to reach here is the sponsorship. Our chairman, Mr. B.K. Goenka, was the sponsor for the shared services center. That is the reason that unlike many other shared services center, this shared services center is directly reporting to the chairman office. So that itself shows the the trust level. That itself shows the values, what the group is thinking that what this Welspun GCC can get. So we just started our journey with 90 employees, and somewhere in 2021 as a cost center in 2019, and in year 2021 we became the profit center. We started our profit center journey with the capital of just 1 lakh rupees, and it was the first year that from that 1 lakh rupees of capital we gave the dividend to our shareholders worth of 3 crores of rupees. And our business valuation as of now, and you are right, this is not something like on the business valuations where we took some help from outside. This is something that the people are ready to give the check of $20 million to buy the shared services center. Of course, we are not going to sell this. Our plan is to sell our services outside Welspun also in the coming future. We got many internal, external awards. This shared services center or this GCC is not only managing the finance and accounts, we are managing the master data management, we are managing the HR, we are managing the secretarial practice, procurement, merchandising, and then now the legal function, and it's a global shared services center. So we are serving the Welspun US, Welspun UK from the same center. We have 2 centers, one is in Vapi, another one is in Ahmedabad, which is a recent one, and then a very small shared services center in Mumbai. On overall basis, we have 500 plus FTE. Of course, we are not tracking ourselves on the basis of number of FTEs. We are tracking ourselves that what value we are creating for the business, what efficiency we are bringing on the table, and then the very important thing that whether when the business is taking the decision, whether we are sitting on the same table or not. So that is something which we are thinking that that is a parameter for our group. But yes, because we are growing, just in 3 years, we have reached to the number of 500 people with the diversity, not only the female diversity or the gender diversity, it is the diversity for location, diversity for age, diversity for gender. So we have 35% diversity. Also, over the period of time, we changed the gear. We are calling as GCC 2.0 journey, where the special focus is on the value creation for the business. So I have added just a small business case that when we started our journey, that what business case we picked. But yes, now we are focusing more on the analytics. We are focusing more on the consulting services. So that's also very important that now business, if they are taking any big decisions, they are coming to us. They are asking our feedback, and we are very important member for that decision. That is also one of the reasons that GCC leadership is kept in the board of the business. So that's also very important that that kind of privilege they are giving to us. This is a business case. It's just the journey like when we started somewhere in 2020. it was a huge challenge, especially in the order to cash. And the major challenge, like Welspun Home Textile, we are dealing with the big customers like Walmart, Costco, Massey. The challenge was that despite we are dealing with the big multi-billionaire customers, there was a huge overdue outstanding within the group, and because the reason was each customer was having their own process. So they were not, accepting your document. Each customer was saying that there is a different process for their own process, and because of the manual intervention, we will not be able to submit the documents on time. We will not be able to, adhering their own SOP, and as a result, they were not paying us on time. So when we started this journey as a GCC, we picked this as a first project. This project took close to 14 months of time because we personally met with the big customers, and we understood their requirement, we understood their SOPs, and what we did, we deployed more than 40 bots into the O2C. I think there are many discussions also whether the RPA is successful or not. Of course, it depends on the process to process, but for us, for Welspun, it's very successful because of this bot technology. Yes, of course, we also added the Python and the other artificial intelligence into this process. Because of that, we moved the entire O2C cycle without the manual intervention. So that means in our case, our 95% of our revenue, which is the export revenue, is getting recognized by the bot. So it means based on the Incoterms, my bot is going on the government side, my bot is going on to check the container status, and on that basis, the bot is recognizing the revenue in my books of accounts. My bot is going on the customer's portal. My bot is going on is adhering the customer's SOP. My bot is also doing the complete reconciliation with the receivable, and if there is any overdue outstanding, of course, all these customers are also having their own shared services center. My bot is doing the follow-up on that overdue, and the result is that the outstanding, which was close to 140 crores overdue, that has been reduced to 3 crores, and this is the actual numbers in the month of August. So it's a very successful project in the history of Welspun. And apart from that, of course, because we picked only one as a case study, but apart from that, we also picked the P2P. We are also generating close to 7 lakhs. We are 7 lakh invoices on a per annum basis. We generated our own tool, which is a valid tool. We have a big team who are focusing, and then of course we are going on the patent also of that tool. This tool has a capability where without touching the invoice will get processed. It will get automatically reconciled with the GST return, with the TOE and the other things. And there are many projects, but I'm sure once we will have such more sessions, we'll be happy to share the best practices. Sudesh is one of my good friends. We used to talk very regularly. We are sharing our good thought, what we are doing in our shared services center, and then, of course, we'll be happy to connect with all of you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Another very powerful example, and you saw the...
Just last thing. This is also very important, and why I added this slide is it was just the second year of our operations. Within Welspun, it's like an Oscar award, like the best company award. So you can understand the value of this GCC, that they are not considering us as a back office. They are actually considering as a business partner. There were companies into the competition who generated the revenue of 30,000 crores and the good EBITDA margin. In the first year, we just generated 16 crores of revenue. But we got the best company award from the Welspun Group and from many other companies. So that itself shows the trust level and the what value which we are creating for the Welspun Group. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I was also about to call out this point that here is one so-called shared services, which is actually transformation services that you call yourself about. Within coming into existence within 3, 4, 5 years, the kind of achievement and the connect with the enterprise value that you have been able to establish. And the positioning within the organization where it reports directly to the chairman's office and all that. Many other similar centers have taken years and years and still may not have reached there. So hats off to you and your team and your sponsors. So that's a great story to hear. We'll come back to it once again. But is there a Mentimeter audience poll ready? So everybody will get an opportunity to share their views on a question which is going to come up on your screen very, very soon.
So question for us.
You can also participate. Okay. Basically, it's a Mentimeter question. Again, technology-enabled audience engagement methodology, you can say. Well, so you will have some options. What you need to do is you have to go to menti.com and use the code on that. So please use your smartphones. Go to menti.com, use the code 71092590. 71092590. I'm sure it's not that complicated. The code is 71092590 if you want. And you can give, there's no right or wrong answer, you can give your preferred choice of the answer. Even, it's okay. No, they didn't ask. So we'll give 30 more seconds to all of you. What is the most impactful benefit to the organization due to digital transformation? What do you think is the most impactful one? All 4, 5, 6 options may have their own value. Ten more seconds, please. Still some fingers at work. More or less, the house seems to have given its views. So let me try and read it out. Done? Yeah? Okay. So pretty much 3 bars are standing out. The first one is the 39% decision transformation through rapid and real-time analytics. So decision support or decision, now nobody calls support, decision transformation, quality of your decisions would get improved through digital transformation. 8% feel that. And there is an equal vote for 2 other benefits, that is improvement in performance and service effectiveness, and probably a linked point of enhanced customer experience. So while improved performance slightly inward looking, improved customer experience is also a similar thing but external looking. And a few of you definitely felt more about control, governance and compliance. So I can understand how many people are in control and the governance functions here. Okay, so with that, you can take it off, please. Thank you very much. Couple of questions. And I will first turn to Nitin now. Nitin, given the relative age of the journey that Welspun began and all that, and you also touched it upon it in that the first few months were like oh gosh, where have we landed and all that, and whether it was even the right decision in the first case to walk on this path. What were the key strategic factors apart from the sponsorship that you already touched? But I'm sure it was more than that. And you would have personally led from the front to address those 2 or 3 top challenges to ensure that you are back on the track of giving the transformation related journey and benefits to your organization.
Captive shared services, managing the captive shared services is always tough because you are dealing with internal people. Internal people know the hierarchy, internal people know the escalation matrix well. So as a head of shared services or as a CEO of this captive GCC, I always focused on 3 things, on 3 C's rather.
3 C's.
Which is one is culture, one is customer, and one is the cash flow. So we focused a lot on the culture because when we start any GCC center, there are rebadged employees which come from the retained business, and many times it happened that at least 40-50% people we are hiring from outside. So it's really tough to, in the beginning, it's really tough to manage that balance. So that was our first focus, that how we can create the culture for our GCC where the experienced people, they should not feel that where they came, and the new people, they should not also feel odd that they're experienced people. So we focused a lot on the culture part. And in this culture, like, it was a tough time for us because in the beginning it was a 6 days culture. We were sitting in plant, there were dress code and so on. So it was a tough change management for the business too. When we started, like 5 days a week, no dress code, flexi hours, work from home, periods leaves for women and so on. So on the culture part, we touched, and it helped us to to create that experience for our people. When it comes to the customer, because we are captive, and I always tell that to my team that when we are saying customer, it does not mean that we need to deal with the external customer. Everyone being the support function, everyone is your customer. So have the customer centricity and the collaboration in mind. Try to give the wow experience to your customer. So probably managing the SLAs, managing the KPIs is something which you are supposed to do. So do not think that if you are processing the invoice maybe on one day, or if you are making the bank reconciliations, the GST reconciliation and so on, so then you are giving the wow feeling. No. Probably you need to do something extra for your customer. So we did this. So we did, first of all, we met with the customer, we understood the voice of customers, where they are facing challenges, especially the customers. So this is also very important, the communication piece. If you are having a very transparent communications with your customers, having regular feedback, having regular your customer satisfaction score, and then sharing the actionables on the basis of that feedback, then probably the customer will get the confidence, because for them also it's a big change management that maybe the people, they were having the 400 people under them, they were thinking that they are the boss, and then tomorrow these 400 people are getting transferred to the shared services. So we also need to understand that point of view. So we focus on that. And the last one is on the cash flow, which means my P&L. Although we are captive, from the day one, we are not considering ourselves as a part of the expert. We are always considering as a part of third party. They are also treating us as a third party. We are also considering them as a third party customer. There are very strict governance, very strict governance, very strict SLAs, penalty clauses are there in my agreement. So all such things are helping me, or helping my shared services center to meet out that expectation. So on the day one, as my chairman told, that even if you will generate the ₹1 profit, that is okay for me, because if we are creating a separate legal entity, having the separate revenue and the expense, our balance sheet will show our actual picture. So we focus on that. So why we are so successful in Welspun GCC? One thing which I wish to tell with all of you, that today we are 500. We are now opening a new shared services center in Hyderabad, and it will be the 2,000 seater office. So maybe in the next years of time, this Welspun GCC will have close to 3,000 employees in the GCC. So why we are so successful? Because of these 3 C's.
Okay, good. So we learned about this thesis. Turning to Sudesh, we have heard a lot about this value part of this entire. Yours is a relatively more mature organization, and you have given some fantastic, mind-boggling statistics and all that. In simple terms, what value ABEX will be delivering for the Adani Group in this rapidly changing digital environment? And can you give a more specific, precise answer to that?
Yeah, so thank you. In my view, value is a little bit different when it comes to ABEX delivering value to the Adani Group. And I'll tell you the reason why. If you go to Adani's website and download our corporate presentation, on the slide number 3, which is the business model of Adani, you will see there is a mention of ABEX as well. We feel very proud, that it is mentioned there. Why? Because the group sees ABEX as more of an assurance function than a back office. It is not like a transactional processing unit, typically a shared service center has. We have very different in terms of scope and everything else. As I mentioned, we do end-to-end part to our, prepare financial statement to the final level, get audited and everything done. So the expectation of the group is very different, And we have lots of investors, JV partners investing in the group like IFC of Ahmedabad, QI of Qatar, Total from France, and then latest is the GPG, which invested $5 million post short-term support. So there was a presentation to the CEO of GQG, Mr. Jain, a couple of weeks back, and he has given to us slot to the entire group, to kind of present what we are doing. I was given 30 minutes out of that 2 hours slot to talk about ABEX. So that is what the controllership and the assurance the group is expecting out of ABEX. And typically in a valuation, the future cash flows, I'll talk about finance a little bit, the future cash flows and everything is discounted on a WACC basically, and it has a risk premium. So I see value in a different way. If because of ABEX, we are able to reduce 1% in that equation from the risk of the group, the value of Adani Group will increase by $25 billion. So that value I can deliver in the next 3 to 5 years time to the group if we put our things right. So that is one way. Second is not related to the digital transformation, but I have a different problem than Nitin. He has lots of rebased employees because they have recently set up. We were 10 years old. We are 10 years old. So I have a different problem. All the rebased employees are now gone back to the businesses. I have new hired people, and I have to see career path of those people. So what we are doing is consciously we are moving the trade resources to various business roles. In last 5 years time, I have moved almost 200 people to the various group companies. So if you see today's Adani's finance structure, we have around 500 people in the businesses. 40% of that is ABEX.
Wow.
And in the controllers as well, I have 5 controllers who have worked in ABEX and now they are in the finance. So when you talk about future, I see this in a way that in future, the finance organization, the retail finance organization should be ABEX organization. I aspire to become an incubation center for the growth, where each and every person who is required in finance will move out of ABEX. They will not have. I'll train and move the people to the businesses.
Wonderful. So both of you made some points, which was wonderful. And on a personal note, also took me back almost 25 years ago. We are, as you said, we have the tag of being pioneers of this journey and all that. So, one statement that you made, that in this stage, it's important for you to be seen as a separate business within the larger scheme of things of the organization. In American Express, we used to say that we have to become a supplier of choice. There is no mandate. Although there was a mandate to begin with, but there is no mandate on the specifics. So we have to deliver as like a arm's length transaction. And similarly, you made the last point again, that you have to become a fountainhead of talent. So that's what ABAX has proven, that 40% of your finance leaders in the businesses, and this is inevitable, because the kind of training or understanding or depth that you can provide into the business through the wider shared services penetration and reach, that is unparalleled. So thank you, both of you. And both of you made another very, very strong point about how you have started looking at artificial intelligence in an early way. And that brings me to that surprise element that I was talking about. So it was a great pleasure. I want to invite Henry Allender to the stage. Henry has come, as Rakesh was mentioning. He's a British German and lives by choice in Zurich and has traveled via London, Mumbai to Ahmedabad with his baggage still following him. Okay? So we were together in Mumbai yesterday, and Henry, he represents a company called KYP, which is one of our main support sponsors, and KYP in some form and fashion can also mean know your process, which is so fundamental, so basic. But without stealing thunder from you, and we just want to share what you do and how you can help our fraternity in our jobs.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. Let me maybe just start, if I can, before I do that introduction, by saying I'm humbled to be here. Selling software globally, we can see the role that India plays in the shared services space, the rapid growth that continues. It's good to be here today in a city that's also driving that growth significantly as well. And yes, I'm here representing Germany from the company point of view, also from a personal point of view. The process obsession mixed with a bit of privacy obsession. Throw software in there as well. We talk about productivity an awful lot. Me, very briefly, by background, nuclear engineer by training. Of course, I'm here today as a sponsor, but I'm not going to go through any slides on detailing the software. I've been allowed to put a sheet of A4 paper into every one of the attendees' packs as a description there if it's needed. What do I want to pick up on today? Well, between the software role today, engineering, I spent a lot of time as a practitioner in this space. So acquiring companies, centralizing lots of functions, particularly in the energy industry in Western European countries. And this was early stage maturity. And I don't need to lecture an accomplished audience about maturity models. Shared Services Forum have got plenty of those. But what we see, what am I in a position to see, how am I in a position to help? Across our global customer base, across maturities, there's still a challenge on visibility, on data, on understanding at the most granular level what is going on across organizations, across functions, even in small teams that might be sat together. And with that visibility of processes, of course, of people and technology, and by visibility for us, that is from 5,000 people in shared services at DHL, for example, 15,000 people across commercial and marketing at Colgate-Palmolive. It's broad visibility. How people apparently follow the same processes, use technology, but come out with very different results. The tips and tricks and shortcuts and macros that people deploy in day-to-day work to get work done. So with that visibility, there's of course some interesting trends, and I'm going to leave AI till number 3. Firstly, we talked already about technology enablement and the journey towards technology integration. From what we see, 80% of daily activity at scale in shared services still happens outside of core systems of record. So these systems that are designed to be the backbone of daily operations and functioning. So it's 80%, but still in everything from Excel, of course, but through to tiny hidden applications, Slack used for approvals, people going online to get exchange rates, and many thousands more. That gap still needs to be closed to get to full technology integration. There's still a long way to go from what we see in the data. The next trend, number 2, top performers. And this is the world over. Top performers are overloaded. So the people that are genuinely carrying organizations, carrying teams, despite the progress that's being made on the automation front, despite some of the wonderful technology that's out there to support them now, top performers are still overstretched, and that's very clear from the data. From simple signals, overtime, weekend working, through to seeing where the load really lands when escalations happen. We see, of course, how people work. We see the potential in work in those 3 domains, people, process, and technology. And we're lucky, we're privileged to be able to see the applications and the impact of AI technologies as well. So of course, an example, generative AI, the last 6 months, megatrend. Everyone wants to know about it, everyone wants to know what it's worth to them. When you capture in real time productive work across shared services, you can see the gaps that these kind of technologies can fill. You can search for patterns to understand what it could be worth to your particular circumstances and your organization. So for some customers, the question is already, okay, how's AI already being used? So let's put compliance to one side, whether people should or shouldn't be using the tools in the first place. Let's put queries to one side, but how's it already being used? Now I think one phrase this morning is already stuck in my head. I've written it down to make sure I get it right. So digital capability builds the divide, by Robbie in the introductory session. This is what we're seeing with AI technology adoption as well. So top performers, people that we've said are already overloaded, these are the primary adopters of AI technologies and generative AI in organizations. It makes a meaningful difference. With our measurement, we're seeing a 4 to 5% productivity increase already in a couple of global organizations for people that are using a couple of the well-known tools that are in the market. So measurable impact. But back to this quote, the divide. It is the top performers that are using, again, these new technologies. So it's not just about digitization, it's not just about digital competence and capabilities or generation gaps. Again, in day-to-day work, the top performers are the ones deploying these tools, and it is increasing the divide from the mean inside of teams and from those that are lower by some metrics performers as well. So it's another thing on top of the long way to go, 80% of activity happening in this huge spread of systems, top performers being stretched. That implementation of generative AI is a big challenge for lots of organizations. And if people are, of course, looking for how to measure that, how to do so in a data-driven fashion, understand what's going on, then I'd love to discuss it further in the breaks. But to wrap up, the acceleration towards horizons and how to unlock those value horizons. I'd say as we're accelerating towards those, we don't need to think about, as Ravi said, what it will look like. We can also think about what it does look like today. As the basis for the 2 stories that we've heard today, as the basis for all other transformation projects, understanding what's going on, leading with visibility across people, process, and technology is absolutely key.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we are a bit behind, but still, I promise that everybody in the room will have an opportunity to ask questions to the panelists. So, quick ones. No prize for first hand going up, but still. Any questions for either Sudesh or Nitin or Henry, the towering personality here, literally and metaphorically? You can take a seat. Okay, we can get a chair for you. Just get a picture. Questions? No questions.
I think the real, yeah.
The mic please. Right here.
So this is myself.
हमें बता दीजिए।
Yes. So the question is related to.
No, please take your
Introduce yourself.
Yes. So myself, Saurabh, I'm part of Wealth Fund Transformation Services Limited, and my question from Sudesh sir. So when you shared related to the artificial intelligence to judge your P&L on basis of because you
Financial statements.
financial statement with the partnership of the IBM.
WhatsApp.
So because you are a listed entity and you are going to publish your financial and after setting of certification, but how are you going to share your data with the any tool which is related to the you are saying that your P&L is going to analyze with different entities comparison. So how will confidentiality you going to maintain in your financial number before the publish formally you publicly announce your financials?
See, first of all, there is no comparison with any other legal entity per se. You don't need to compare financials between entities. What I meant was that the completeness of the financial statement with respect to the accounting standards, which is in India, it is Ind AS plus listing agreements plus any other requirement from FC and all of those things. It will do the sanity check with the laid down acts versus what the financial statement you have prepared, right? And how it works is basically it goes to the numbers and see if there is any transaction like M&A, like new acquisition, new loan. What is the relevant disclosure which should have been there in the notes, whether it is there or not there, is what the generative AI will do. I mentioned that Watson X is an enterprise solution. I can do this with Chat GPT as well. But why we are going with Watson X? Because this will be an on-prem solution, sit in my premise, in my firewalls, no data will go out unless I publish it formally. So it will be within my environment, no comparison with any other companies per se. This is the application of accounting standard sanity check with respect to generative AI as a technology. Is what we are doing.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
And you told me your GCC is not a cost center, it's a profit center. So I just would like to know how do you charge to your GCC and how it is compared with the market basically. Because in the market there are the professional GCCs, SCCs. So how you are maintaining, how you are going 3 crore rupees to your chairman?
So when we started our journey, our pricing model was on cost plus margin basis because it was the first year for the discovery, year for the pricing. From the second year onward, in many of the services, it's on the basis of outcome basis. Okay, so like what we are doing, we call as a model which is a triple R model, and where we are focusing a lot. The expectation is that maybe in the next 2 years of times, my 80% revenue will come from this triple R model. This model says revenue for the business. The first R denotes revenue for the business. The second R denotes revenue for WTSL. So if we are generating any P&L gain to my listed company, they are passing 10% of that savings to me. So that's the revenue for me. And the third R denote, which is the revenue for my employee. So I am also allocating some part of that revenue to my employee over and above their CTC. So that's also helping us to retain my key talent. It's working as a retention strategy. So to answer your question, yeah, first year was the cost plus margin, the second year was the fixed billing, and the third year onward, my 80% revenue is coming through this triple R model.
Very good.
Thank you.
Atul. Atul has a question. Can you? There's a mic right there.
So I'll ask
I can hear you.
can you hear?
Yeah.
I'll ask a difficult one. For you, you've had a very good journey, right? what have been the mistakes which you have made in this journey, right? Because I think there are a lot of people in this room who might be starting or who might be kind of thinking about starting the journey, right? So tell us about the mistakes or the learnings which you have had. I think that will be very, very helpful for the group and to both of you, right? I mean, whoever wants to take a first shot at that.
And this will be the last question, unless there is a question specifically for Henry.
So, I'll answer, I'll start.
Yeah, so we will have. Yeah. No, I've been shown the clock a couple of times. Sorry, guys.
So, first of all, learning is a continuous process, and we are making the mistakes even now also. Probably, maybe in the beginning, we were making the mistakes of 60-70%. Now, based on that learning, the percentage has been reduced. And during that time, the people, the experts like R-Value, they also helped us. I remember that when I joined Wellspun, we engaged with R-Value with Rakesh. We benchmarked ourselves that where we stand in terms of our processes, in terms of people, culture, everything, and then they made a wonderful report, the complete next 3 years of vision. So, few things which we learned during this journey. The first is, especially in the first and the 2 years, you need the experienced people. Never think that you have opened the shared services center, you can have the people from outside, they will hold your fort. No. Apart from the experience, you need to manage your customer, and if few people are coming from the customers, you will be able to manage your customers very well. Not in terms of delivery, but in terms of the escalations and the other things. The another thing is, if there are organizations, if there are tools available into the market, do not invest in that tool. Just think that, do not think that you should invest yourself or you should generate the kind of tools what is already available into the market. Probably in the first years of your operations, if tools are available, have these tools. Okay, so build that talent. And especially in the first 3 or 4 years, it's an investment time. Invest on the people, invest on the talent. Never think that, okay, I'm hiring the persons with a salary of 50 lakhs, 75 lakhs once a year. I think it's a time that you should invest, so that maybe after 3 years or 4 years of time, you can actually create the value for your business. So few things, maybe these are some suggestions for you.
So for us, again, this is a little different in terms of, I would say mistake or what we have done differently, is that we created an impression back in the organization that we can do wonders in MX. And because of that, they don't look at us like a shared service center. And as Robbie mentioned in the initial speech, Gautam Bhai has a deep pockets. Every year he go out with $10-12 million and do shopping in the market. Yeah? And we are asked to kind of show our capabilities there. The recent example is the wholesale cement assets which we acquired, ACC and Ambuja. Before that, last year we acquired Mumbai International Airport. Before that, we acquired SB Energy's renewable assets. Recently, last month we acquired Sagi's cement thing, and lots of other small acquisitions. So the expectation from MX is that from day one I should take over the business, irrespective what process they are, what system they are. There are people, not people. Typically, this will not happen with shared service center. People will say, "I'll do effort analysis, FT analysis, as is, to be, this gap, that gap, then it will take over." I don't have that luxury available. I have to go out, take over the operation from day one. I did that. I took over equal size of Apex last year in Airoli, Navi Mumbai, the wholesale shared service center, which is 350 FT shared service center, equal to my current size. In 1 year's time, we are doubled. And we are still putting process, systems and everything else there. So it's a mistake, it's a fortune, whatever you say, but yeah, this is not typically a shared service center will do, but we do that.
Wonderful. Maybe the same question for Henry as well, right? from a KYP perspective.
From a KYP perspective, okay, so not trusting British Airways with my luggage, okay. From the KYP perspective, the mistakes, the pivotal points in our journey that really changed the purpose of what we do were being too narrow in how we thought in the early days. There was an easy solution, and that was looking at kind of simple mining of tasks, focusing on automation, but the right customers stretched us really in a challenging way to provide this same view on an ongoing basis. We don't just want this kind of insights and visibility of 1 week. Up your game, raise the ambition, do it on a 365 basis. And then in terms of the depth of capture, what you can look at, it's not just about capturing one small pearl necklace that's been put together, one process with perfect steps. The reality of work is much more complex. And so those early mistakes and the challenge we've had from customers have really driven what we are today.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last one for the gentleman.
So this is in particular to the comment which Nitin made, wherein you have mentioned that the next steps is analytics. Now, what kind of analytics you are looking into? So is it the business analytics you are working on, or you will be providing support to the business? That what kind of things you do to further grow? So what are the pros and cons you have considered while taking a decision that you are venturing into analytics?
So, of course, when we started this journey somewhere last year from the GCC center, our first focus was on the data accuracy, because whatever we are analyzing, if your data is not correct, then you're not going to take the decision on the basis of that data. And we are happy to share with all of you that we have generated close to 500 different dashboards in the Power BI. And now our review, even with the chairman, all the business reviews, these are happening on the basis of that Power BI. And that was a big challenge, because our 80% time before the Power BI, the 80% time was going on the preparation of the data. Now we have converted that. Now the 80% time is going on the analysis, and 20% time probably still there is some accuracy needed. Recently we did the procurement function, and it's a big area for us because now we are having huge data for across the globe. Even when we have not started the analytics, but even in the first month itself, we got the savings of, we gave the savings of crores of rupees, because there were vendors who were selling the same products to my Anjar plant at a different price, to the Vapi plant at a different price, to my Hyderabad plant at a different price, because everything was decentralized. So we are going to have a huge investment in terms of analytics, especially for the procurement piece, and I'm sure that will add the values for the business.
Good. Very familiar.
One last question from me to Henry. What are the chances of AI, or is it just a layer above the core systems, or do you think that AI can really become core?
So the challenges we see at the moment are really early days challenges. It's still figuring out the applicability, it's figuring out the value, the business case behind it. So most of the boards and customers we speak to, there's a clear diktat to research what this is worth, where it can be used. I think it's too early to say how much of an impact it's going to have and how fast. But the real lived challenge that we see is how to quantify it. Is it worth the hype at the moment? And figuring out then how much to invest in it. So it's still year 1, year 2 decisions from the majority of the customers to highest.
Okay, so very interesting. Wish we had luxury of time to continue. That's what we'll have to come back to Ahmedabad for a full day. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure. You have been wonderful audience, and we have had some excellent presentations.
I think next year we will have a larger banquet room prepared. That is under construction right now. So we also timed with you only, so that we can do a larger event. But the success of AI or adoption of AI would be in a true sense if after a couple of years instead of Anand, AI avatar of Anand is moderating me and then this is a success. You know, you see Aaj Tak 9 p.m. daily basis, first 5 minutes is AI avatar and then actual anchor takes over. You know? So we want to see that.
As long as in first 5 minutes, I'm okay.
That time AI will give the answer.
Yeah.
Not Sudesh and not
So I have to also do the honors of presenting the SSF Global Mementos to all my co-panelists, and in the interest of time I'm doing it myself, otherwise I would have invited more people. Please, Mr. Photographer. And then thank you. And this reminds me of Tony Gregg and Gundappa Vishwanath. Okay, so back to the thought leaders of SSF were recognized for their thinking ahead of the curve prowess, both Rakesh Sinha and Sanjay Gupta, the chief architect. And what are they going to do with all of us? Only they know. Okay, so my job is done, guys, for the day.
This on? Yeah, works. Hi, good evening once again, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Yes. By the time Sanjay is getting the mic, etc., just to give you a little bit of a context of what we are intending to do in the next few minutes of time. While our struggle is to keep it short, because we still have one quick session after this to hear from leaders' perspective, and then, of course, spend a lot of time in terms of deliberating over the dinner and so on and so forth. The whole idea is based on a lot of research which we have been doing over the last few years, and we have been strengthening our own research desk with interactions with CXOs and business services leaders across the globe, be it India, be it Europe, be it US, and so on and so forth. And in these interactions, we have heard a lot of perspectives of what is working well and what is not working well for the organizations. To give you a bit of a perspective, we realized when we talk about large corporates, and the large corporates looking the overall context of innovations and disruptions. The biggest challenge the large corporates faces today in terms of disruption and innovation is, the first one is, they are very much siloed. They're still trying to do few things within a function, and a pocket within the function, and a pocket within that process, and so on and so forth. Second, they are trying to claim success themselves by saying, oh, we have overachieved or we have achieved, without even comparing with the industry outside. What is the best practices and where you are, and so on and so forth. The third dimension, which we are finding, there's a huge challenge from that point of view, is that there's still a lot of fixing strategy versus overhauling strategy in terms of looking at what next and what new. As Ravi was talking about, now, next and new. So when you connect that next and new to the processes, you start looking at it. And this is another example of how they can take lot from the startups. The startups today actually are all about focusing on a day-to-day basis how they can overhaul their enterprise processes and functions, be it digitalization or be in terms of their growth strategies and so on and so forth. They're trying to cut as much as possible from the silos point of view
and so on and so forth. Just to give you example, and how many of you are aware, or I'm sure many of you would be aware, how many tech product startups are there in India? Any guesses? Tech startups, Indian tech startups, active. Any guesses? 50, 100, 200? 200 to 500? How many hands for 200 to 500? How many of you believe it's about 500? Okay, 2 hands. How many of you believe it is less than 200? How many of you believe it is more than 500 to 1000? How many of you believe it is more than 1000? Okay. How many of you believe it is more than 1500? Okay. So it is close to 3000. 2700 Indian tech startup product companies are active today. Every year about 1000 new is getting added. Now they are having their own kind of struggle. They are having their own kind of a journey in terms of growth, etc. And this is where I think what we are finding another interesting challenge and an opportunity for large corporates when they look at compared to the startups is, large corporates when they look up for the transformations, they are usually looking up to big brands as a partner. In fact, there are two parts to it. There are many times trying to reinvent, and I think we heard from the panelists just now, Sudesh and Nitin, talking about it's a mistake sometimes you do by saying I'll reinvent and create something on my own. Can you draw the collaborations? Can you draw the expertise from outside rather reinventing and creating something on your own? And this is where when the organizations have deep pocket, they think I can create myself. And this is the biggest challenge large corporates are doing today. The second one they're doing is they're continuously still going back to the large partners. They're not exploring this ecosystem of partners which are in the new age, which are early age, and they can make huge difference from a disruption and innovations point of view. So they are still de-risking by going to establish large partners rather looking at innovative ideas, etc. That's a great opportunity for large corporates to come to a startup. That's something which is very, very important. Now here what we are trying to share with you is that this is where everybody talks about digital, tech transformation, tech integrated, and so on and so forth. How many of you heard this term called ITES? ITES. What is the full form ITES? IT enabled services. And how long we have been hearing this? 20 years? Since the time we have got into this industry, right? IT enabled services, shared services, and so on and so forth. In 2018, this is what SSF did. And Sanjay being the co-author along with myself, we actually did a full focus to say ITES is dead. If you continue to look at IT-enabled services, it is not going to work. 2018, we created much before even COVID. These days, everybody is talking about AI. I can tell you half of the people I interact with, they don't know the difference between generative AI and AI. I can tell you at least 5 instances. Yesterday I was sharing with, there are 2 CXOs called me personally to say, my board has mandated me to use generative AI. I have no idea. Can you give me a use case for it? I have a fund for it. They have no idea. Just because board is asking for it, it's a herd mentality. So IT enabled services in 2018, we changed it to say TIBS, tech integrated. How long it will remain enabled? It has to become integrated. So we said it's a tech integrated business services. And now we realized with the kind of rampage in technology which has happened over the period, it calls for moving beyond business services to enterprise services. And it calls for relooking this entire framework and the tool in that light and context, which corporates can use today to reinvent, not just by creating something themselves, but also comparing to a reference point. That is tech integrated enterprise services, guys. So this is what we're talking about, tech integrated enterprise services model. Just to give you another quick 30 seconds on that, and I think this is where all the organizations looks for digital transformation. They all look for these 5 areas, if you can see it in this slide. They look for capacity, and this is all intent I'm talking about based on the research with some 200 plus CXOs. They say capacity optimization, productivity enhancement is what we go for, tech integrated. We want tech digital transformation. We look at process standardization and NV elimination, Mura, Moody, Mura, etc. Typical TQM, right? Lean principle. That is what the reason they look at it. Insights to action to business impact. In the previous session, we had a poll, and many of you talked about decision transformation, real-time analytics, etc. That's the third bullet, which typically all the leaders are talking about to put the money on digital transformation. The fourth one is single source of truth. And this is where organizations are struggling like anything, single source of truth. I was citing an example yesterday, and it's a reality from a very large marquee listed company. The CFO, who also happens to be on the board of that company, he called me and said, I had a big embarrassment. Can you solve my situation? And we said, okay, what was the problem? He said, in the board meeting, I was citing the cash position, and my treasury guy gave a different cash position. So, and I'm talking about a large company, single source of truth. And the fifth one is improved customer experience management. All these are great intents. This is the kind of outcomes we all expect when we do this digital transformation. And I talk about some of the myths as well, but these are kind of expectations we typically have. And we connected that to this whole framework of value delivery. Sanjay, you want to talk about value delivery?
Yeah, Rakesh. So, we've been talking about value delivery for quite some time now, and we try, and Ravi's presentation early today also talked about value. And value is a term that we hold very dear to ourselves. And we believe that value is not necessarily just financial. There are a lot of people who talked about value, and but the measure that we get in the marketplace almost always turns out to be financial. Many of us are financial professionals or have been and continue to hold pretty much a similar mindset. Even the shared service centers pretty much almost always begins with financial services being used as the first step or the first processes which get brought into the centers. And therefore, most people believe that if it does not impact the top line and if it does not impact the bottom line, it's not really value. But of late, we've been seeing there are many instances, compliances. We spoke about, for instance, AI creating foolproof programs for reporting. Now, when you're doing proper reporting to the various authorities, world bodies, even senior leadership within the organization, the reporting or incorrect reporting, the loss of that incorrect reporting or the impact of incorrect reporting cannot really be evaluated in dollars and cents. So you cannot really say that if you have improved your reporting exercise, if you have improved your governance, if you have improved your compliances, what is the dollar improvement that you've brought into the balance sheet? You just cannot make that statement. Similarly, you cannot make statements such as whether your customers are happy. A happy customer doesn't necessarily mean there's an improvement in the top line. Today you're saying that I have created so many, well, for this purpose I'm just trying to clarify, the customer really means the ultimate customer. Every activity that we do, there's another exercise, and this session is not on value, so I'm not going to spend too much time on value because there is a huge definition of value that we worked out several years of interaction with so many senior people, and we try to pick their brain on that. The only thing that we're going to say is that even if you were to look at this 5 most popularly sought after outcomes, pretty much every one of them is between these 3. It's either a benefit on governance, or on reduction of risk or some impact on customer, etc. And none of them is waterproof and none of them is watertight, I'm sorry, because they're not mutually exclusive. Several times you do so many things which benefits everything between the three circles. So you can actually do some activity or carry out a transformation which improves your customer service and gives you better control and also helps bottom line or the top line, etc. So we will use this as a base for creating a business model or a service model on how we can make an assessment of where we are on our digital journey and what is the gap that we need to fill and where does the gap lie. We've defined the business model under 6 parameters, and all 6 are not technology parameters, they're grouped. And the first group that we obviously understand is the technology parameters group. And all technologies are not the same. There is a huge difference between the technologies. There are technologies that people like us have used 30 years ago with Lotus 123. I mean, I don't know if any of you remember that. Lotus 123 period.
Excel was before Excel.
Before Excel. Before Excel, yes. So we've used
macros on that.
We used to write macros on it, slash commands. So, I mean, for some people who are the younger crowd here, they will not understand what a slash command is. But we've done that. That was technology. But technology is now archaic. It's like completely gone. It's even beyond dinosaurs. But there are those basic applications that we still use. But we fundamentally classify a group called foundational, and under foundational, we take the very basic applications. Say, for example, you take, which has now become hygiene. You're talking about network, you're talking about email, you're talking about system securities, cyber security, you're talking about some things which we all take for granted, but can have very significant impact if any one of those elements goes out. It's like foundation. It's like the very basis on which you build your processes. And then the second group, I'm just speeding up Ragesh because of time. The second group that we call are functional groups. And functionals are the ones which really are the ones which are finance driven, for instance, or HR driven, etc. I'll come to some examples in a bit. And finally, we're talking about transformational. The AIs of the world, for instance, or cloud-based kind of applications, etc., or even ML kind of applications, the very latest applications, blockchain. There are all technologies that are far ahead, they are on the cutting edge today. But there are 3 elements of the technology model which are as important as they are the technology groupings are. And these ones are the operations groups. And what it means is breadth and depth is the one most important application or most important parameter we believe. In all our understanding, in all our conversations, we have seen that while technology gets implemented, so there is a tick in the box, but there are huge gaps on how wide we have implemented this, whether it is to single LOBs, whether it is to single business centers or to one particular process, or is it wide enough for it to be covering the entire organization and therefore entrepreneurial level, tongue twister. Depth as well. Are you end to end? Are you just talking about one particular process which you are responsible for or we are responsible for, or again, are we talking about completely from one part to the other? The other is partnership and collaboration. This is an important element as well, because there are a lot of things that we just do for ourselves, and there is a very important culture of internal partnership, external partnership, which require that depth for us to be able to implement this on a softer level. And finally, the culture. Finally, we find that as much intention that you may have on the board or the chairman or anyone. But so long as you are not able to define the culture of transformation, and that too digital transformation within the company, we will never ever be able to implement those transformational implementations across the organization, because there will be instances of resistance.
Yeah, I think just a couple of points before just moving to here is that, what was the need, as I shared with you, to create this entire model? And why are we trying to summarize this for all of us is twofold. We realize that, as I was sharing earlier, there are a lot of self-claimed success which we have, and it may be great or it may be still primitive. To prove your own journey and build further your journey to the next and new, is important to have a reference to the context by saying, this is where we are in the heat map. This is where we are in the journey. This is where we are in terms of our level of deployment or the quality of output or outcome which we're talking about. It is not piecemeal. This is not in silos. This is having the right kind of breadth and depth. This is also building the right kind of people and culture. This is also looking at, you have a process and a policies to support some of that in terms of further taking it to the next level. What kind of thing which you have in terms of your foundational technologies? Because many times there are two sides of the stories. We have seen the companies which says, we have a beautiful ERP deployed like SAP, and we are leveraging it well, so we don't need anything else. Now, yes, it is important, but when we went into diagnostic to understand the level of utilization and controls, we realized they're using only 20% of the features, what they bought. In fact, there are use cases where we have seen they have got the budget approved to buy a new technology for which the same feature and the module was available in the ERP, because it was not known to the people who were trying to upgrade or buy. It was only left with some technology folks in terms of when they had that contract or SW, when they bought that ERP, they were not even aware of it. We have seen situations where 200 ClickView licenses bought by the CIO and the CFO. The CIO interestingly reports it to the CFO, and the finance shared services leaders are saying we need some dashboarding tools and we need a budget for it, and then CFO is approving that budget, and then finally we walked in and we figured we already have 200 ClickView licenses. What are you doing about it? For 2 years no one has used it. Right? So it is about reference to the context to see, you quickly get your heat map by saying here we are progressing, and so on and so forth. And then connecting those 6 parameters. There are a lot of double click to that, but just to give you a broad context, we talked about 6 parameters and more level of it. The second dimension of that is this 5 levels. We said, no, you also need to understand your level of maturity of deployment and the service which you are able to get through these 5 levels. And you look at these 5 levels, you can see on the left hand side we're talking about level of deployments. And the right hand side we're talking about the quality or the impact of service which you are able to generate. So left hand side we talk about something like initiated, regulated, aligned, optimized, integrated. So finally the whole idea is to get tech integrated, but you start somewhere in terms of initiated. So you may find yourself, when you look at these parameters, you are somewhere like regulated or aligned, etc. And we'll share some of that very quickly in the next page. And similarly on the service front, you can see just giving some discrete output, going up to a consistent services, then taking to the next level of non-linear unified delivery, and then finally the level 4 and 5 is all about end-to-end customer experience. End-to-end. There are a lot of touch points in the journey of the customer journey, and we take many times those satisfaction surveys, etc., without understanding the end-to-end customer experience. And finally looking at the value. Now again, 1 or 2 use cases are great, but how to look at the journey towards enhancing value, which is important. So that's a 5-level dimension we have connected with these 6 parameters based on some.
So we'll not spend too much time on this slide, Rakesh. So a bit of it has been understood. What is the technology?
In fact, just to give you a sense, for example, many times we have seen, organizations saying that RPA, is it RPA transformational or RPA foundational? It again depends. Is it transformational work which you are getting it delivered, or you are just eliminating that human intervention? If you are just eliminating the human intervention, it is foundational. But if you are able to generate something transformational, changing the way it was operating earlier, that is transformational. If you are only using RPA for some functional work like reconciliation process, it's a functional process, then the same RPA becomes functional technology. So it is not RPA is transformational. It is where and how it is used defines the three kinds of parameter or the bucket which we are talking about here. But ERP, DMS, workflow, etc., all is foundational. So if somebody says, I've done all this stuff and I've got some, actually that's another challenge which we face. Many times, at least in India shared services, we are slightly still conscious, but if I talk about some of the global organizations, the starting point they will have is, oh, we have 100 bots deployed. What are they doing? They're still doing a manual work, right? They're skill strapping. So what is good about it? They talk about 100 bots, 200 bots, 600 bots, etc. So it is still in foundational. And that's the whole point.
Yeah, so I'll just carry on and actually this one slide. So we put together a 2x2 grid and said if we were to take these 6 parameters of a technology implementation program and plot them against the 5 levels that we just spoke about, then we come with this grid, which is a 5x6 grid, and say, well, where are we on every one of our parameters against the level? Say, if we take our first parameter and say, okay, foundational technology. When you're saying that you are a foundational technology and you've got some foundations in place, what is level 1? Where you are merely, or should I say simply, initiated to provide discrete output. On a functional level, this means something different. It means that your ERP is a little improved, even though it may be just single BAU or a bit classified into certain silos, etc. Where are you when you're talking about transformation? So actually this is supposed to work the other way around, and that's the reason why this is really a dipstick kind of a model. And say, if you were to go into an organization, and if we were to go into an organization and test against 6 parameters, where are, what is the condition or what is the situation of each of these 6 parameters within the organization, and we can assign a level to it, then it can give us a measure and give us a sense of where we fit with the best in class kind of framework or best in context kind of a framework. And if we make an assessment, a self-assessment, we can figure out the gaps. Say, we seem to be on a certain stage, whereas we believe that we are on, let's say 5, I'm turning out to be on 3. Or conversely, you're saying, maybe I'm lacking on culture. Whereas all we are doing is focusing on technology, and in all the 3 technology lines, we seem to have gone into, the high numbers, into the 3s and the 4s, etc. But you know what? Because of culture, it's all holding us back. And on culture, we are behind. So it's a kind of a self-assessment tool, and we are in the process of creating a tool also which is own use tool. I think Rakesh wants to talk about.
So I think there are, interestingly, the whole idea behind this framework, as I was saying, was 2 folds. One is knowing where you are, because we need to know what is the point of departure. As we have learned in the process world for the last 20 plus years is, you need to know what is the point of departure, where you are, and what is the point of arrival. As I think when Nitin was talking about when we went to Westford about a few years back, look at where is your starting point, where you are today, and what could be the art of possible over the next few years, and putting that strategy together, which I think so well has been deployed to build it like many folds and so on and so forth. So I think what we always believe is you put a point of departure by saying where you are, and you also build a roadmap for you as an organization. Now, building a roadmap has a context to it by your organizational point of view. It is not that a manufacturing company has to follow what a services company has done, or you have to follow exactly what a company A has done and company B also has to do it, etc. You are in a different maturity of as an organization. So you can't be ahead of or a different off from your parent organization. You have to also have a linkage to parent organization, and that is where the context becomes very, very, very important when you look at it. And that's the whole point. We have this tool right now as an assisted assessment and roadmap requirements. So where we are providing that support. Now we are building, and hopefully in the next few weeks of time, we should be having a self-assessment version of it ready, where you can just drop down checklist questions, you answer it, you will yourself get a heat map of saying where you are, what are the opportunities for you, and of course, then you can have more dialogues, discussions with people like us. That's the whole idea behind this entire thing.
You can use it as corporate governance tool, for instance.
Yes.
An assurance tool as well.
It's a management. You can use a management assurance by saying, where you are. We are putting a lot of money on technology. How well you are spending. That's another thing. So it's not just about one use cases. Typically, we talk about a lot of ROIs for that use case, but it's about overarching way of looking at your digital transformation maturity in the journey.
Yeah. Finally, one last thing. This isn't cast in stone. It's a living document, and we created it with our experience, with our understanding, and with conversations that we've had with leaders like you, and more perspectives are always welcome and invited to refine the model, to utilize it, to test it. And the previous one that he talked about, which is the 2018 model, was a little bit different from this. That was very well understood. I must admit, it's a change that happens all the time. We changed that model several times. And this one too, we've given it a new name and a new feature because there have been many changes, and this is specifically designed for digital transformation. And so we will invite questions now or anytime later. I don't know how much time we have, Rakesh, but if there are any.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can have more discussions during the break time. In the interest of the time, I'll just take a pause here maybe. And a small tent card is placed on your table, so you get a bit of a glimpse of this model, so that you can take something back from here to really reflect and see how are we doing. And you can, of course, come back with more questions, thoughts, etc. Then we can further fine-tune, refine it, etc., etc. That's the quick point. I also want to take this opportunity to share with you a couple of more things. One is that we are going to have a few more series of SSF events in the next few months at different cities. We are having some virtual sessions planned, and we are going to have our flagship event, which is an annual Global Business Services Conclave on 4th and 5th of December in Bangalore. And we also take this opportunity, we just announced it yesterday, that now the 12th Annual Excellence Awards and Recognition is very coveted both from the organizations and individuals' point of view, is now announced. And you can start participating, nominating, figuring out which categories you want to go for. You can reach out to the awards email ID, seek forms and so on and so forth, and apply through online portal. So that's something which I wanted to leave with you here just now. The last point, which before I conclude and pass it back to Anand, is for the next session. One is, we realize that as an SSF, as we are trying to build this community, there are sub-communities which is getting created. We are very happy to see that, as even Nitin was talking about having dialogues with Sudesh and so a lot of sub-communities are getting created. Where it is losing is, we're not able to build a nationwide or a global community, and that is something which we are committed to from a passion, obsession point of view, and as a practitioner's point of view. So we have brought in, and despite, as many of you would know, that neither I said we are an event company, we are practitioners, nor we are a technology company, but we do a lot of technology ourselves as well. But one thing which we are bringing out is something is an SSF mobile app. And that SSF mobile app will be available on your Play Stores and Google phones, etc., where you can download. I think an Android it is ready, iOS should be launched in the next couple of a lot of things. So it becomes easier for you on your phone to play with this. You can even individually play with it. Earlier we used to have on a portal organizational membership, that will still continue, but even individuals you can contribute. You can look at some things like, I can show to you, yeah, it's there. Something like, membership, speaking opportunities, knowledge vault, leaders speak. You can have a lot of knowledge articles available here. You can say, I want to contribute to it. You can even, build R&R of your organizations, reward and recognitions. You can showcase through this app and so on and so forth. And most interesting one which we're trying to bring is even the job portal, which is something which will happen over the next few weeks of time as the next phase, where you will have the opportunity to even post, very focused, because there are so many portals, but in our space it is important to post as well as apply both, so demand and supply, which we'll look at as a part of it. And last we are talking about is bringing a lot of knowledge corners, things like we're talking about something like Sanjay's Corner, where he'll be giving a lot of insights. We'll have pearls of wisdoms from the leaders, as well as a feature of Ask an Expert. So if you have a query by saying, are we aware of anything in terms of accounts payable of this process, how it works? And as Sudesh was taking straight through process, touchless process of P2P, how can I do that? Has anybody done that? So now in that community, you get a quick Ask an Expert response, and experts here will be people like you who will be identified, and at the back end, they'll be able to respond to those queries and so on and so forth. That's the whole idea behind this app. So we should be able to be with this app to you very soon. And with this, I'll request Anand to join on the stage and take this session forward. Thank you, Sanjay. I think Sanjay, I don't know how many of you know about Sanjay. Sanjay is our Chief Architect for Shared Services Forum. He's the brain behind all content we talk about, and even this Tech Integrated Enterprise Services model. An astute leader with the kind of experience, the wealth of experience he brings. He's our chief editor and a knowledge contributor as well. A round of applause to you. Over to you. I think you have to change this. Thanks. Yes.
So I have an audience question. How many minutes are you willing to remain engaged? Now that as per the original schedule, we should have I should have been talking about the vote of thanks. Okay, but that would be absolutely inappropriate. Having two more stalwarts amongst us from this very city of contrast. Why I said contrast? First thing I pointed out about the only UNESCO recognized heritage city. But at the same time, and in my mind without argument, but maybe with some argument, the city with the most modern urban infrastructure in our country. So that's also Ahmedabad. And all that happened in last, 15, 20 years? A sleepy city. I used to come here in 80s very, very regularly. We had a textile mill that my group was managing, and I saw a lot of old memories with Ahmedabad. And so, my pleasure to invite Mr. Naresh Poddar, and I will read his quick introduction. Naresh भाई को सब जानते होंगे, काफी लोग तो जानते ही. So, but many of my own colleagues who have come from Delhi, they may not have had an opportunity. So Naresh is also a veteran in this field, and more than 25 years of experience in finance leadership role, major tenure going into oil and gas. He has been managing board and stakeholder responsibilities, merger and acquisitions, business finance, and many other things. What should I highlight here? There's so much. So, what really is impressive about him is the business insight and technology that he has integrated with his finance acumen throughout his career. That has been the most impressive part of his career graph. And for example, he has been a very early user of SAP ERP. He was part of SAP implementation team at Indian Oil way back in 1999. And early adopter of SSC concept, led migration to SSC within Adani ecosystem, and has always worked very closely with SCC leadership team to improve efficiency of process. Now part of Torrent Gas, and he ensured that in every aspect of business there is identification of those functions which can be standardized and optimized. So that's Naresh Poddar for you. And now another veteran, Vikram Ojha. Vikram is a qualified chartered accountant. Having post-qualification experience of more than 3 decades in the field of accountancy, auditing, tax laws and finance. And he is presently engaged with Jindal Group of companies, which are considered one of the top textile groups of the country. And this was a kind of, I must admit, as a learning for me also when I met Vikram first in Goa very recently. So the topic is rather CDEC now, but more grounded in the reality that every good thing that we can talk about, every new technology that you can imagine, every path-breaking new process or invention or anything comes your way, it won't see the eyes, the light of the day till it is backed by solid collaboration strategies. So the power of collaboration across functions, across individuals, across generations, across diverse groups is so important. And what a better way than having these two gentlemen share their experience about that power of collaboration in ensuring the successful digital transformation of an organization or a policy. Okay, so the way, given again the limitations on time, I would like to a little bit fast forward this whole conversation. And what I would like to do is that I would like to request both of them to take not more than 3 minutes each on summarizing their top level thoughts on the topic. And then we straight away move into an interactive mode and try and close it in next 20 minutes. How about that? Okay? Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for giving me an opportunity to initiate this session. I think even otherwise also I am the senior most maybe here. So thanks for that. Since I have been given only 3 minutes, I would just like to explain you the journey. When I did my CA in 1984, see, we used to do manual accounting. So there used to be self-balancing system for the account payable, account receivable, there used to be balance sheet, even the bank reconciliation and everything. From that level we have moved on to now everything means, say, I get my balance sheet. At that time it used to take around 6 to 7 months or even 10 months to finalize the account. Now I am getting it done within maximum period of say 30 days, 20 to 30 days. So that's the collaboration. It's because of the collaboration of technology with the people that we have been able to achieve this. Second thing, when we started out Jindal Worldwide Limited, it was in 2006. We did not have anything by way of presence in the denim industry. And within a short span of 17 years, now we are Asia's largest denim fabric manufacturing company. and probably in top 3, as per my indication, it is the second largest. So that is the growth we have been able to do because of the adoption of the technology. Just one simple example I will give. When we started out for the denim manufacturing, Toyota machines were there, and there were even German technology was also there. What prior to us, Arvind was there, Ashima was there. What they did was that they bought even the technology along with the machines. So what we did, we went to one of the fairs. Every year there is a textile fair held in the German city. So we went there, we saw everything, and we took even one of our engineering units situated in Vatua industrial area of Ahmedabad, took them, they saw to it, and after coming back they repaired the exactly same kind of machine with the program logic PLC, program logic controller. So with the help of that PLC you can go back, and if there is a complaint from the customer, you can find out which batch it was produced in and which yarn was used, where from it was purchased, so you can go to that. So that's the help of technology which we have taken, and this technology they enabled us to reduce our capital cost by 50% from what others were using. So that way we scale the market from being a no entity, we have been able to come up to this level in 2021. And since last 5 years we have been clocking more than 2,000 crores every year, and the profit also has been in excess of 100 crores. So from a zero thing, we have come up to this level. And as he was telling, Ahmedabad is a heritage city. I am proud that I am from Ahmedabad, and again this textile industry, I am representing a textile industry which is again a heritage industry, because denim was started here in late during 1800s and 50s and 60s. Textile mill started. It was called Manchester of India, and even today Ahmedabad is called the denim capital of India. And as per my rough calculation, around 35% of the denim manufacturing capacity is in Ahmedabad. I could be wrong, even it could be 40% also. So I represent a heritage city, heritage industry, and I myself have become heritage maybe after 5 years. Thank you so much.
So on the last point, sir, I know at least 3 individuals sitting in this room who are senior to you in terms of the chartered accountancy, myself included. Okay, so please don't think on that. So we are all young enough. So, but what really I picked up from your conversation was identifying the business technology imperatives upfront. People go to Hanover Fair every year, so many people go. But the way you picked up that that entire technology, the PLC with the traceability, right up to the yarn and all that. Now the traceability and all that are known concepts in many industries. I don't know how much innovative it was in textile. So great points. And again the collaboration point very well highlighted. Okay, so a lot of learning here. Naresh bhai.
So I think Vikram bhai was right. If Nitin and Sudesh was about modern urban Ahmedabad, we too perhaps represent the heritage side of Ahmedabad. So it was there. But good, the best part of today's takeaway for me that somewhere in 2011 when this Adani shared service started, or WebEx started, I'm glad to see that what was Horizon 3 for us at that point of time, in just 10 years, that's now Horizon 1 for Sudesh and team. Wow. It's a great, I'm so glad and so happy to see it. And again, so excited that for me again, I'm creating a Horizon 3 from today onwards, kind of. So it's a miles to go, yeah. And we have no, I have no hesitation in saying that what is next for a lot of audience, for us, that is, what is now for you, perhaps it is next for us to achieve. And at a group level, just to give an idea, that's we Torrent, a lot of you guys from Ahmedabad must be knowing. So Torrent, as a group, we don't practice sort of group philosophy. We are very strong
2-3 business like pharma, power, and now the city gas. Each business operates very independently, arm's length. So not group concept, but you can clearly see that all these two business of power has a lot of heritage, as I say, a lot of mature processes. And just to give you an example, you must be knowing that Torrent Power has one of the lowest transmission and distribution losses in the country. So, and most best power supply reliability index. So anyone who knows in Ahmedabad can vouch for it. And I would say the beauty of this is that a lot of this, when I see on the ground, I don't see a lot of process, defined process or SOP or anything very elaborate written to achieve this. But still it's a reality. So the best part in Torrent working with me, whenever I get any doubt about anything, I just pick that number 8. Unless there is something very beautiful in the group or the processes, it is impossible to achieve those kind of outcome on a year-on-year basis. And my sense is again, a lot of that has come from the trust in the people. The culture, the value system, which has been so much ingrained in each employee from the day one, that despite not having a lot of modern probably, one thing I would like to describe that I am not much insight about pharma etc. But still from an outsider I can sense that despite not having a lot of modern urban infrastructure, the organization could deliver year on year. On the pharma side, you must have seen that right now the Torrent is sort of in bidding process for a CIPLA, which is thrice of our size. So that again shows that so far the group philosophy or the business philosophy is more on the resilience and not on the sort of speed or very fast efficiency. So strength has been given a primacy over the speed. That doesn't mean that speed is not important. So that's why we are here. We are also trying to learn, because we know that the best of animal, say the mammoth, could not survive if they failed to adopt. So adoption is necessary. We also have to adopt whatever strong we may have. That's why my team and we are here to learn, to pick up the threads, and I'm sure it will help all of us to look in that direction. So whole idea is that again I would say that as a sort of heritage value and modern, we do amalgamate a lot of values, which is the importance of process vis-a-vis importance of people, and so far that has been beautifully integrated. I necessarily don't represent a shared service environment, because we have an in-house finance team, I would say. But yes, the good part is that we have used a lot of learnings from the shared service processes and environment, and despite it being a captive process, we have been able to use a lot of those learning in our finance and account process. And just to give an idea, we are running city gas distribution in 32 districts of India. We are doing a complete centralized finance and accounting, where in last 4 years we made around 20,000 crore of payment. Not a single check or not a single rupees has been made outside Ahmedabad. It was centrally by 2 people, complete banking and entire APAR etc. has been done centrally. So again, some sort of credit to my learning or my association with the Adani ecosystem, that I could translate those learning in the Torrent ecosystem, where it was completely unheard of. When I joined there, they already finalized 4 GM level posts for sort of decentralized finance to be taken care at the cluster level. So good for me that I could convince the management, I could argue that, and successfully running this 4 years. But great.
So Naresh bhai, if you could give some telling examples of the collaboration for digital transformation, your learnings on that. So our topic is more of collaboration.
Yeah, so as I say, collaboration internally, it was not between the internal functional, because it was something new for the Torrent. So a lot of convincing and sort of collaborative attitude we have to go. As I say, we have to always, within the Torrent, it is always like making elephant dance. So when I say elephant dance, it means convincing the people, convincing the decision maker. So we may be a bit slow, but the decisions are kind of in a collaborative process. So first thing I would say, the biggest strength of the group which I notice is the decision making process itself is very collaborative. Now in terms of collaboration with, say, a lot of, so in this journey, It is again the group relationship, even with the consultant, with the third party vendor, is kind of very relationship oriented and collaborative. So even the consultant, whether it is EY or PwC or say IBM, when they come on board, they have a deep understanding of the Torrent culture. They know that what is expected of them, the kind of detailing, the kind of 100% accuracy. So that helps even in integrating the third party knowledge, etc. So from that perspective, it helped when we use the established relationship in terms of the people from the group, from the outside group. And like I said, we generally don't experiment unless it is too much required. So kind of building the trust and building the relationship. That is one hallmark of our collaboration mindsets. So collaboration for us is a kind of converts into a sort of relationship. It doesn't end at a process level that you do at a transactional level, but it's a more a relationship level which is a long-term in nature.
So I will pick up from there, and then I'll turn to the audience also. Vikram, how do you pick up the same point on how do you foster the cross-functional collaboration culture in that organization? You gave one telling example already, but on a day-to-day basis, there would be pulls and pressures, which is very normal. Sometimes seemingly conflicting objectives, कि पैसा इधर लगाना है, conflicting demand on investable funds and all that, and then how do you get into that solving that jigsaw puzzle, so to say?
See, I see it as if you keep your eyes and ears open, I think you can do many, many things. See, I will tell you this, there was a system of dealership there, mostly in the automobile sector, where there used to be, even the company used to arrange, means the anchor company used to arrange for the dealer financing. They were heard of in the textile sector. Of course, garmenting is a different ballgame altogether, I don't consider that, but for the fabric manufacturing, that was not there. And we were the first one, Jindal Worldwide Limited, to start that for our dealers. And this has evolved over a period of time. When we started out in 2006 as a denim fabric manufacturing company, we had a dealer network of around 5-7 people. Even after achieving a top line of around 2,500 plus crores of rupees, we have got a dealer network of only 12 people. So during that initial period, we used to help them. See, I personally used to see to it that their financial needs are met with. So I recommended our bankers to them that you finance them. That was a very informal kind of arrangement. But the kind of loyalty which it created, so that's where I am coming to, that's a collaboration. So that helped us in achieving that. And because of that, they continue even today after such a long period of time to partner with us in spite of getting some handsome incentives or the temptations from the other rivals. And even during COVID period, what we have done is that we have taken advantages of various government schemes and we have allowed them double or even 3 times credit period to them. And what is the outcome of that? Our turnover has never gone down even during that period, and none of our money has gone bad. So that's the whole result of the collaboration. And we were even awarded by Dun and Bradstreet and Bank of Baroda for the initiating this anchor financing for our dealers, where what we do, they allow us, I raise the invoices on them, and based on the digital transformation, I get funding sitting over my table only, so that there is no leeway. We allow them a period of 90 days, and that arrangement takes us even 180 days also. So this is all possible because of the collaboration which we received, and for that I credit our eyes and ears of the management team. So we have taken care of them and they in turn have taken care of us during our difficult times.
Wonderful. So a solid example of collaboration right at the business level, supported by digital capabilities, resulting into long-term loyalty of your business partners. Great. So, questions from the floor, please. I had many, but I thought.
I have one.
Yeah, Suresh, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
I think. So my question is to my dearest friend Naresh Bhai. In today's technology world, the speed is the key, right? Speed is the key to success. You mentioned that you need to, kind of make elephant dance, So it should not happen that by the time elephants started dancing, the DJ Wala Babu has left the venue, So in your effort of transforming oil and gas organization, how do you see this contradiction where you have to kind of, put lots of effort in change management of the organization for making them, agree to invest in these kind of.
Yeah, so that's why Suresh, I say good for me that I had that advantage of two beautiful worlds. One is that some sense of my grounding in Adani, where I have seen all those. And just to add, when you say Gautam Bhai goes for shopping, I know that he goes for shopping with so much confidence that he knows there is someone to handle those shopping bags, which is you. So I have that background and I have seen this torrent background, which again I would say slightly different in culture. So first things first, my sense is that we have to recognize that the strength, or you say, the bee also dance. It dance 24 hours, even with or without music. And there is an elephant who very difficult to dance. So we have to recognize that both have their own virtue. So good for me that I came from this background, so I appreciate this importance of speed as well. Good for me that from the torrent I learned the importance of resilience and strength as well. So my role becomes more kind of important and in the sense more satisfying that though it may be slightly slow, I would say my achievements are rather slow, but the good is that I could make an inroad. And you see, one essential part, I would say that one essential part of a collaborative decision making is bit of slow. So it is some sort of trade-off sometime between your pushing something too hard and going in a bit collaborative way. So the good part is that we have adopted that collaborative approach, where all the business leaders are on the board. As a group, as a philosophy, we are not much in a hurry. We are not like a bee. We don't just keep on dancing from here and there. So we are going our own path as a group very slowly and steadily. And good part is that we could, or we are at least trying, or we are open to the new ideas, new processes, new things. And that way, just to give an idea, like we are on SAP HANA, one of the first adopter of SAP HANA, the entire group on SAP HANA now. And from ISU perspective, one of the complex module of ISU. So we have like almost 70 lakh live customer on SAP ISU. And the efficiency of torrent billing system, torrent overdue system. Any one of you must have experienced that if you fail to pay the second bill by due date, by next 4 or 5 hours, your connection is disconnected. And the moment you pay back the amount, in next 4 or 5 hours, you are connected back. So the whole cycle is in 8-10 hours. So that shows the resiliency of the processes. So the group, I would say, is very, very, yes, but since we are, as I say, our focus is more a customer rather than a very top line or bottom line. So the process are much more in detail, elaborate, where all the stakeholders, whether it's marketing, sales, customer complaint, each inputs is required before any new thing is adopted. So I would accept your point that we are a bit slow, but we are certainly open and we are gradually incorporating the new ideas, new process in our way of working. And it is certainly helping. And one reason we are here to learn from you guys that what new we can do. That's the whole idea.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other question, please? Yeah.
So my question from Vishnu. Do you think and are you facing that you are slow, or you can say that
collaboration between the leadership and slow decision making is impacting your attrition or keep them young talent in your organization from long term, which is impacting due to the speed of the decision?
Good question. Yeah, I would say absolutely not. In fact, this whole slowness is why, because we are giving equal importance to the human element. So there is no way that I feel that I am getting some sort of talent issue or retention issue because of this slowness. Because when the people see that how their views, how their feedbacks are getting incorporated, how they are being valued in the process, I feel they feel more involved. To that extent, I would in fact say that from a shared service perspective also we have to, some sort of balancing is required where we are still as an SSC, though we call shared services, but many times I see we are afraid to say ourselves service provider and we more harp on say being business partner. I'm saying absolutely, but business partner doesn't mean service, and at the same time the partnering doesn't mean that you don't involve. So when we say collaboration, obviously you involve the people, and once you genuinely involve the people, I don't see that some sort of slowness or some sort of a larger time frame in decision making creates any issue for me. We are happy in that way, I would say.
So on the point of involvement of people, another Mentimeter question coming up. So can we just look at the screens and note down the code number, please? And well, you can take your time. Who you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I had such a privilege to have both oil and gas and Jindal Worldwide CFOs on time. Atul Kulshresht, Quintus Global. Two questions, two parts. What are the disruptions which you see in your business in next 2 years? Right? Big disruptions which you see, and how do you think in your current role as CFO, either you are ready or you are getting ready to manage those? Could be through collaboration, could be through digital transformation, could be through leveraging technology. Just your perspective, for your respective businesses.
See, so again, going back to the Ravi's model, Horizon 2 and Horizon 3, my sense is that beyond the limit you don't see. Only thing you can imagine. And only other thing which can see is the Excel. So with Excel, we can create any kind of Excel. But I would sense that human mind has, or human sense is limitation. But yes, obviously, technology it appears to be the biggest disruptor. In what sense, in which way, I believe very difficult to point out this artificial intelligence, etc., etc. I believe it is still part of game because basic necessity remains that roti kapda makan. I am not thinking that is going away anytime soon, that we are not replacing food with say vitamin capsule. But yes, this process improvement, these are ongoing process, and I don't see them in the sense that major disruptor of life. Yes, some job will become redundant, some new job will come, the new skill sets, etc., come. Yeah. So different way to look at globally. Yes, the globalization is becoming more and more narrow. The autocratic leaders are becoming more powerful. So I'd say the major disruption is coming from those sides. The political thought process are changing in a very different way. Then this inflation thing, the money printing is like at a never before scale. So which way this bigger thing will work? Central bank is being taken as a solution of everything. They can increase the inflation, they can decrease the inflation. Each 10-day story changes from inflation to recession. 10 days में inflation होता है, फिर अचानक से recession की news आने लगती है. So looks like that nobody knows, frankly speaking, which way the world is going. But yes, I see that excessive debt, excessive currencies, the political tightening, the acceptance of autocratic leaders by societies, those are much bigger risk than AI or ChatGPT. Vikram bhai.
Yeah, I mean, see, technological disruption, we don't see much. On the contrary, see, many challenges may come, but see, there are people over here, see, everywhere, who like to overcome them. So once you face it, you overcome. Over a last period of say more than 2 decades, we have, as I was mentioning, in more than since last 4 decades, from manual accounting we have reached where you can get your account finalized the way you want and within the minutes. So that is not going to be a problem. But the disruption could come from the change of the mindset with the kind of inflation which people are facing. So earlier, US and European Union, people were spending before earning. But now with the shrinkage of the disposable income, they have now shown less inclination to buy, particularly out of this, as you were mentioning, roti kapda or makan. I think kapda is going to be affected most. And that fashion and everything, and that could be result into less demand. So you have to be innovative in order to maintain your growth cycle. And there are many ways, and people are always working. The more challenges you face, according to me, the more opportunities you will say. So you don't see challenges as a disruption, but as an opportunity for your growth. So with that kind of mindset, if you keep on working, I think sky, not Surya Kumar Yadav, but the real sky where we have reached is the limit.
Rakesh will be delighted. Okay. So, Mentimeter, last 30 seconds, 2205559 is the code. Many people have already responded. Those who could not, will give them. And while that's going on, it's my sacred duty to now close the session with profuse thanks to both Vikram Bhai and Naresh Poddar, and let me please do the honors again.
Thank you.
And wonderful, thank you. And wonderful to read that we have two tie at the top regions, silo view and finding fit for purpose solution. These are the two most common barriers for digital transformation in enterprise functions, followed by adoption of new age tech. But silo view remains a very important point. We have seen that the session was about collaboration and finding fit for purpose solution. That remains an ever-present quiz to be solved. So with that, it's now we are almost at the end of the session. I would like to probably so it's time to propose a vote of thanks, the customary vote of thanks. And it has been absolutely fantastic 2 days, and I would say personally very, very engaging second day today here in Ahmedabad, thanks to this engaged and enlightened audience. My profuse thanks to all the speakers, right from setting the tone this afternoon or rather evening by Robbie Singh, and then Ravi, and then Rakesh, Sanjay, and of course all the panel speakers, Sudesh, Nitin, Vikramji, and Naresh, and of course Henry. All have done wonderful contribution to all of us, and very special thanks to the Adani Group for providing this venue support, and also various colleagues behind the scene who have worked tirelessly for several weeks now to make this whole event successful. I think it will be probably not easy to call out each and every name, but having watched it closely. Pallavi Jaiswal, most of you know her. Then we have other people like Shilpa, Parag, many others, Sarvanan and everyone else who has been on their toes to make this whole thing work. So with that, probably it's time to, we all earned our dinner, right? So thank you once again, and looking forward to connecting with all of you again and again, both under Shared Services Forum or otherwise. Thank you guys.
And we'll just have a group photograph with everybody here.
Oh yeah, great idea.
Before we go to the restaurant.
That's Rakesh for this place.
Light चालू करते हैं सब. Come here, maybe line up there.
Trust Rakesh to do that.
That's what I think.
I request. Yeah, please join everyone. Please join everyone. I hope there are no people outside. Parag, is anybody outside? Yeah. If anybody outside, we can.
ले ले दादा ले पूरा ले पेंसिल अच्छी है मैं तो ले जाऊँ पेंसिल छोकरे के लिए काम आएगी तू होते हैं भाई 2 मिनट
और लेयर नीचे फोल्ड करके करो उससे करना है वहाँ पे जो भी है जैसे कुछ लोग और पीछे जा सकते हैं
कैमरा गेट के बाहर जाना
एक लोग हैं उधर आगे आ सकते हैं
बढ़िया चलो बेटा